That's our, that's everyone else.
Chairman Veely's on.
Yes.
Vice Chair Diane Dorsey.
Here.
Okay. Brian Rogan is still having problems, so we're confident he's not on. John Michael O'Brien. John Michael. No. Curtis Holtman. Curtis Holtman.
Commissioner Rogan?
Oh, Brian's
Oh,
on.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't able to get the video one to work.
Curtis Holtman, are you on? We thought you were. You might unmute.
He was, no.
Okay. Timothy Zigmont.
Yes.
Okay. Steve Woolman.
Present.
Excellent. And Steve Biella Jr., alternate.
I'm here.
Excellent. So you have 6 members present. John Michael and Curtis Holman are absent for the time being.
Okay, so as long as they're absent,
I'm here too. Joan,
okay,
I'm
George
here.
Millard? Yes.
Oh, that's
George
that's
Miller.
Curtis? Oh, George
Yes.
Miller.
No,
Okay.
George Millard. So we
I'm
have
I'm here as
two,
well.
okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
we have, no, that's okay.
And
We have both
Peter.
of the, we have both of the alternates available, so until somebody chimes in, either John or Curtis, then we'll seat both alternates for the meeting.
All 3 alternates.
All three, right.
Two of us
All
here.
3.
Oh, there's only
Steve,
2 of us.
George, and Peter.
We don't, do we have a Peter?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, he is here. Okay. All righty. So we will seat Steve Biella and George Millard. Okay. All right, so I think, Maureen, I think we can go with this now. All
Yeah.
right, so
Yeah,
it's 7:19 in the evening. Bang, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And because we're doing this as a WebEx meeting, all members are zooming in or calling in. So I'll just point out at this point that if you are going to speak, especially if you're on the phone and you're going to chime in on something, I need your name and address. I need some acknowledgement of who you are for our records. It'll also help our secretary, Fran, as she's trying to develop minutes for the meeting to make them as accurate as possible. So with that being said, let's go on to commissioner business. The first item is we have, in accordance with the section 824 of the Connecticut State Statute, review and recommendation of the matter of replacement of the Kensington Road Bridge. Maureen, do you have anything on this, or we've all received information on it? And I can't hear you, Maureen.
I'm sorry, I muted myself because of the background.
That's okay.
noise. I believe Mike, the Director of Public Works, was going to be joining us, but I don't see that he's on.
Okay.
He might be. If you are on, Mike, please unmute yourself and let us know.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So what's
and
the
I have-
story?
Oh, the story is this. It's the bridge up by Brook Street on Kensington Road, just north of the Town Hall entry drive. After DOT inspection showed the bridge needed attention, the town submitted applications into the CROG for funding under the LOTSIP program. But at that time, it was meant to be a rehab, sweeten it up, reline the culverts, throw a railing on the top, and redo the sidewalk. Over the course of the review, DOT comments back to us showed they were in favor of a total replacement, which they were willing to fund at the cost of under $2 million. So that morphed from a rehab into a total replacement. And at that point, when they were doing the initial application, a Section 824 review wasn't needed because it was just, sort of rehab and not full replacement. Now that we're at the full replacement point, we need a Section 824 recommendation from you in order to continue. And we do have a DOT commitment to fund for $1.96 million. That's for the construction. But in order for us to proceed with design, getting a designer on board, we're looking to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the 824 sign-off, I guess you call it.
So this is Maureen. If I can add to the record that the town council heard this at their December 15th meeting, and therefore it was determined to send the review for Planning and Zoning Commission referral at this meeting.
Okay. Is this in response to the work that they did over on the dam?
No, it's completely independent, although we will have fish-friendly design in one of the box culverts that we're proposing to put in, because we want them to make it up the Mattabesset to the Fishway. So the DEP Fisheries is part of the reviewing, I guess you call it the reviewing group that will have to go through for permitting. So they will actually probably request stuff, but we're already going to be considering that as part of our design.
Okay. And will this bridge, it's going to be a bridge replacement. Are you going to be doing work on the culvert underneath as well?
Yeah, we'll be replacing the entire structure.
All right. Any other commissioners have questions?
Yes, this is Commissioner Zigmont.
Go ahead, Tim.
I want to question about the 7 bridges there underneath the Amtrak. Is that addressed with this proposal?
The Seven Sisters?
7 Sisters?
Mm-hmm.
No, the only part of this bridge that gets near that bridge or touches it basically just touches the wing wall of the downstream side towards the 7 bridges. We will have to actually coordinate with the railroad, but we're not doing anything to that structure. It's just a town bridge, not the railroad bridge.
That's
Thank you.
there's still some of the floodway there through the 7 Sisters, isn't it?
So Tim, you said that, I'm sorry, Tim, your question was, or was that a comment?
It's still connected to the floodway through the 7 bridge, 7 Sisters. No?
I would think if they're going to address the bridge, and they probably are not going to address the 7 Sisters, those arches.
I understand that they're pretty full up, and I don't know if that holds back water or anything from there. You know, it's part of the floodplain part.
Oh,
Well, I can answer. I can put in that as part of any design, they have to do a hydraulic study, and the Army Corps is involved with that review. So if there's a downstream constriction, they'll have to recognize that there's something there. If the railroad has to do something, because that's in the railroad right of way, we really, technically speaking, wouldn't be allowed to do something without the railroad's permission. So if there is a problem, that will be identified by the hydraulic study, and we'll have to handle that through permitting in some way. But as far as I know, right now, our capacity will get a little bit bigger. There will not be any constrictions under our bridge. If there's something downstream, we can address that with the railroad, but it's not really part of this this design effort and permitting effort. If there is something, maybe the railroad would have to be contacted, and we could do something that way.
My concern is the railroad sister bridges plus the stream itself on the other side of the bridge going through the Kensington Fire Department property. That's been restricted for a long time. I think that flow's got to be addressed at that point.
Well, we can look at that, but I think that's even further downstream, right? Past
the other side of the
yeah.
Kensington Firehouse property comes up against the Seven Bridges to the Amtrak property.
Yeah, well, I can look into that, but it's not, that work is remote from the bridge itself, so it wouldn't be part of this review.
But that restriction there, if we're putting more water into the area, if there's a restriction on the other side of the Amtrak,
Right.
going downstream, we're just putting more water into an area that can't take it.
Right. Well,
I'm not sure. Is that what we're going to be doing though? I mean, I'm just looking through the material. It just looks like they just want to replace or update the bridge. And I'm hoping that there's not going to be any impact to the water flow. I mean, I would think that would be like a separate issue or a side issue.
Well, he just
I mean,
said that the water flow would be a little bit more because they're improving it, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, but it still will be, the same flow will be going through. Right now, there's 5 circular culverts, and each one has a division between it. So we're getting logs and trees, and you might have seen this too. We're always cleaning, our highway guys are always cleaning the upstream side of that bridge. So
Yes.
what they're going to replace it with is 4 box culverts that have a wider span. So hopefully we won't get those maintenance issues that we have going on. The flow itself will still be the same going through, but like I said, there'll be a hydraulic study that has to be completed before Army Corps and DEP sign off on this.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commission?
Joan, this is George. I just had a question.
Sure,
And
George, go ahead.
Just more curiosity. When I go traveling out throughout the state and anytime I see a bridge replacement similar to this, lots of times you'll see they set up a traffic light and they do half the bridge one time and half the bridge the other time and not totally close off the road. We seem to always close bridges or close roads in total when we do these small bridges. My concern here is this is a fairly major throughway, you know, so is that not a possibility to do something like that and not to disrupt everybody for 8 months, at least have some traffic flow through there?
That's a valid question.
Yeah, I'll give you the background on why we're proposing to close it. The construction period would be extended and also the cost would go up. So during the initial, they do a structure type study to take a look at what options are available. And this question came up from the design engineer about if we could close a bridge, it would save money. So we're proceeding on that basis. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean we can't have the detailed design take another look at that. But I know this thing is like 65 feet long. It's got right now 6 different structures in it. So I know from a contractor's perspective, doing the one, alternating lane and setting up the 1 lane bypass with alternating traffic is going to slow them down and the prices will go up. And right now we have a commitment to fund from DOT for just under $2 million. So I've also reached out during this process, reached out to the fire department and the police department and the town manager to just say, is this a non-starter, setting up a detour? And the department said, it's going to be, essentially it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be pleasant. But we did the same thing with the Burnham Street Bridge, which is pretty busy too. It's not as busy as Kensington. And that seemed to work well once people got used to the routing. But I did reach out to the emergency responders and they didn't say, no, you have to keep it open. But I understand your point. This will be an inconvenience for at least 8 months.
So a follow-up, I guess, is like so I understand the point about costing more money. Obviously, it would take longer and whatever. If the price went up, that means that the state will only contribute 1.9 million. They wouldn't fund additional monies to do it if it came through at a higher price because of the way we wanted to do it, not disrupt traffic.
Well, it'd be going back to the decision makers again. And just to give you some background too, the relining proposal and rehab was about $800,000. Now DOT came back and said, okay, we're going to pay for it, but we want you to replace the entire bridge. And they're funding that $2 million. But if we go back, we'd have to go back to the CROG again, to their transportation committee, and That's an option. I mean, we could pursue that. I personally would rather go with the proposal as it stands right now, but we can have the design engineer evaluate. If they can figure out a cost-effective way to maintain traffic for the 2 million, we would definitely choose that. Absolutely. But right now, that option looks less likely than just closing it and getting the project under the $2 million mark.
The minimum that emergency traffic should be able to flow through there.
Tim, I just
Yeah.
need you to introduce
Sorry.
yourself before you have a question, please.
I'm sorry.
But that's okay.
This Timothy Zygmunt, I would ask at least emergency traffic to be going through there. Is that putting a stone road in the evening or something before it gets through? With the town complex right near there, the Kensington Fire Department coming the opposite way up over the Camel's Back is not an easy thing for them. So, I would ask to see at least if we get emergency vehicles through there or one lane like George asked.
I think the concern I have is that I know that there's projected, we're supposed to be going, if we get the closure on this, that the project will go approximately 9 months. However, as others have witnessed in town, when the Burnham Bridge was done, and then the one that's over by the Citgo station, the center of town, when that was done, we found ourselves not with a bridge closed for 9 months, but going on years. And so I'm, looking at this project, if it's something that has to be done and it needs our blessing, that's fine. But is this something that's going to go on for years? That's what I don't want. That's what I don't want.
Yeah, the Farmington Road Bridge, I think, is the one that had an extended closure, and that was because the contractor went bankrupt. So that was an unusual situation. Burnham Street actually was on schedule. Their closure was consistent with their schedule. So I think it was open before October 15th, which was on the signs. So that one, I think you might be referring to the Farmington Avenue Bridge, but both bridges, yeah, these bridges take a while, and it's safer for everyone to keep, especially the contractors, to keep the job area shut down. They get a lot of heavy equipment in there. They're working. They're also bypassing the stream. So if they have to bypass the stream and bypass traffic, they're sort of quartering their work area. So it does drive up the cost significantly. So and like I said, I was concerned that the fire department, police department would reject it out of hand. So that's why we reached out to them, and they didn't give us a blanket no. They said, we can deal with it. You sure it's going to save money? I said, yes, it will save money. So.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, this is an 824, so it's just a question of blessings. But is there any other concerns that we may be able to draw to the attention of the town here while they have this piece in front of us? Any other commissioners who would like to chime in?
Joan, this is George again. I guess,
Yes, George.
fine, I understand the logic, Mike. I would just ask maybe that you kind of, at least in saying a lot of money, as we communicate this to the people in town, it'd be nice to have a ballpark number about what the difference would be. I'm not saying go out and get a quote or anything, but if you could get a guesstimate on what that would be if we did it the other way, and we're saying, oh, we're going to save $1 million doing it this way, then people are probably going to be more acceptable of it versus, if you came back and said, oh, it's $200,000 to do it the other way, people might not be so acceptable. Again, I'm not looking for a quote, but if we should have some idea of what a lot of money means, because I don't know what you mean by a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Good
what
to
I
have an
can do,
approximate.
what I can do is this. We're going to be doing an RFP for the design work on this. I will absolutely put in that the design engineer has to evaluate the costs associated with maintaining traffic. And who knows, maybe we could put it in as an alternate in the bid, and then we could actually have two numbers, hard numbers from contractors showing the discrepancy. And at that point, make a decision. Do we go back to the CROG and say, listen, we need another $300,000? Or we talk to the town manager and the town council and also DOT and see if we can go back and ask for more money. We could do that. So I will put that in the RFP.
Okay, that sounds good. Anyone else? Okay,
This is Maureen. This is Maureen. Can I make a comment?
Yes,
I
please.
would, I believe, procedurally, the commission could, as a, perhaps, if they so choose, decide to send a favorable, recommendation to the town council, but note your concerns with, so that the town council can then make that, or through the RFP and the town manager or whatever, and direct that cost, the cost factor. Be
Okay.
directed by them, but it be noted to them. That could be part of your motion or whatnot, if you'd like. Or
Okay.
whichever way to handle that.
Yep. That sounds good. Well, commissioners, anything else, or do we have a motion to make a notion on this 824?
I would encourage George to make a motion.
All right. Commissioner Jorsey is asking George Miller to make the
Okay,
motion.
what am I motion? So I make a motion that we approve that we approve of going forward with the replacement of the bridge, the 824, with the proviso that we get additional cost estimates for putting the bridge in with not disrupting traffic for 9 months total. That we get an
Yeah.
alternative of doing one-way traffic through maintaining one-way traffic throughout the construction period.
Yep. Okay, so we have the motion. Do we have a
I will
second?
second
Mr.
that.
Jorsey? Okay, thank you, Ms. Jorsey. Any further discussion? All those in
Good job,
favor?
sir. Aye.
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 Maureen, do we have to do this as a roll call?
That's what I was just gonna say. Can I please
Okay.
do it as a roll call?
Sure.
Joan Bailey,
Aye.
Diane Joycey,
Aye.
Brian Rogan,
Aye.
Timothy Zignat,
Aye.
Steve Wallman,
Aye.
Steve Biella Jr.,
Aye.
George Miller.
Aye. Aye.
I'm sorry, they didn't come out right, Millard, and Peter Zarabozo.
Aye.
Excellent. Unanimously carried.
Right, thank you.
Excuse me, point, I just, for clarification, Peter was not seated.
Good catch. But it's nice to know he had a nod of approval on the 824.
I'm sorry, I counted him as number 8. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry, don't worry.
Can't we see 8? We see 8. But you're right, you didn't seat him. Okay.
Okay. All right, the next item is the discussion of the 2023 Plan of Conservation and Development. Maureen, okay, what do we have on this?
Okay, so both myself and Jim are on the line. Jim Mahoney are on the line with regard to this. As most of you know, and well, let me give you just a little bit of background. The Plan of Conservation and Development gets redone every 10 years by statute. The town is required to have a new POCD every 10 years. The last POCD was done in 2013, so we're starting to ramp up the thought process for the 2023 one. Jim and I have been talking about and trying to get some continuity to how to get this process started. And for those of you who aren't aware of the process, or maybe were on or off the board, the POCD includes an analysis of the town, where the town has been and where it's going to, and how to get it there, what zoning amendments might be required. It's an interdepartmental as far as the considerations that are looked at, and it's a deep analysis into the town. And what we want the planning and zoning commission by statute spearheads this. And typically a planning and zoning commission can either decide to take the ball and roll with it and be their own steering committee, to get the, to rewrite the plan of conservation and development and or do an update, or the last two POCDs that I'm aware of, I don't know previous to that, the Planning and Zoning Commission decided that they would put together an advisory committee, and that committee was made up of members of the town. There was member at large as well of public, as well as some representation from some of the other boards and commissions, particularly the land use boards, to facilitate the process. So that's something for the commission to think about, and that Jim and I are asking you to think about. We are planning on putting together a memo for you and distribute it prior to the next meeting, but wanted to give you a heads up on where we're at with this. Typically, the committee, or my experience with the last committee, was they met approximately once a month, and that was ongoing for a couple of years prior to the publication of the new plan of conservation and development. I think that's probably about where I wanted you to think about.
Okay.
Which route you wanted to take. Jim might have something more to add. He has been involved in this process a number of times. I did just want to give the summary that the 2003 was pretty much a rewrite of the POCD. The 2013 version was an update of that 2003. So we've been imagining that the 2023 will probably also be more of a rewrite than an update, because an update would result in an update of really the 2003 with, you know, the second update of it, the 2003. So it's probably appropriate to think more along the lines of it being a rewrite.
Okay.
But again, something for the commission to consider as they dive in.
So it'd be a question of whether or not we want to spearhead as the Planning and Zoning Commission spearhead this, or do we want to spearhead it with volunteers, not only from our own commission, but from other commissions like economic development, maybe wetlands or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
And like I
So
said, Jim
that's
may have more to offer. I think Jim's on the line. He may have something more
Okay.
to add.
Yeah,
We,
Jim.
like, we don't really expect much feedback tonight, but it's more of a start the discussion and everybody think about it, see what your own time commitments are and where you're thinking as far as the role of the commission to play.
Okay, terrific. Jim Mahoney, are you on the line? And is there anything else you want to add on this item?
I just add a couple of points. One is, I think the last two times, again, as Maureen said, we had the advisory committee. I think the P&Z in both of those instances decided that, you know, the decision was kind of, first of all, on a workload basis, that, you know, you've got a number of applications, other business, and to add another meeting per month and guide the whole process would have added a lot to your workload. But the second advantage of bringing an advisory committee was you bring in those other commissions that are involved. And one of the aspects of both of the plans was an implementation plan. And the implementation of the POCD involves not only the Planning and Zoning Commission, but of various other boards and commissions. So it was thought to be beneficial to bring them in earlier in the game through, you know, the advisory committee and get a lot more people involved in the process. So that was the thinking behind it. At that time, you can mull on that and we'll discuss it again. A couple of other things. We do have some money that's appropriated for the project already. It's about $72,000. We're going to evaluate whether we think that's sufficient, but we'll certainly be looking to hire a consultant, and that'll be one of the jobs of the commission, guided, you know, with the assistance and guidance of staff. They'll have to be consultants, et cetera. And also, Maureen and I had decided that one way to really jumpstart the process would be to develop some of the economic and demographic data early on in the process, so that everybody could start looking at that and understanding kind of some of the issues that are facing the town. And so we identified an intern. It was Kevin Fitzgerald. I don't know if you remember him. He was an intern previously. He's finishing up his master's degree in he's agreed to come on board, and he'll work with us in the next couple of months to develop a lot of background data that'll help jumpstart the process for us.
All right, well, sounds like you're pretty organized over there, so that's good for us. It's a good way for us to take the time, maybe between now and the next meeting, or maybe 2 meetings down the pike, and be able to give us a little bit more direction. I think we'll let the commissions think on this, and we'll pick up on their feedback, perhaps even the next go round, if that's okay with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that will wrap up that item. So we'll move on to item C, which will be the facade application for the Powerhouse Incorporated at 99 Webster Square Road. And who do we have? Do we have anyone from the Powerhouse, or is this you, Chris Edge?
This is going to be Chris Edge. There was actually a death in the family of the owner. He's unable to make it tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I actually just found out about it today, so very last minute. But property, everybody knows it very well. Powerhouse Gym on Webster Square Road. Formerly was the car dealership. They've done a lot of work on it. Been there for a while, and what's happened is the front of the building has gotten very tired. From a handful of pictures you see, it's cracking. Their goal is essentially to bring it back to the look it had when they originally redid it over 10 years ago. It will include a new sign on the road, as well as fixing the entire Powerhouse Gym there. So really what it is it's helping to upgrade the property, make it look nicer. And the good thing too, it's going to be through our facade program. So we're going to be matching some of the money and help to take a property that everybody knows well and give it a nice little facelift and make it look nice as it was a handful of years ago when they took it over.
Excellent. Do we have any questions from the commission regarding this issue?
I have just one question for clarification.
Diane.
Is the appearance going to stay the same? It's just a freshening of the facade?
Yes, it's going to stay largely the same. There may be some minor differences, but largely it's going to stay the same. I know they really want to give it a nicer look. And again, probably likely the same, very little change.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or concerns from the commission?
I just got one clarification.
Yes, Tim.
I'm sorry, I didn't say my name again.
No, I did. So this way Fran would know. Go ahead.
The facade money, that was for the Farmington Avenue, Mill Street area. Now this is off the Mill Street. Is this just a continuation of the money, or what? I don't know. I think it's a good idea.
I can answer the question, Commissioner Zigmund. The Webster Square is an eligible road. So it is Farmington Avenue, Britain, Main Street, Mill Street, and Webster Square Road. So it is an eligible area.
Okay, that's all the question was.
Thank you.
I think it would be a nice addition, even if they're just freshening up.
Agreed.
It'd be good.
This is Maureen. Can I add a couple of things for the record?
Oh, yeah. Of course I want to hear from staff. Go ahead.
Okay. So the building, according to the records I was able to unearth, the building was built in approximately 1987 as the car dealership. And when Powerhouse Gym came in 1995, no exterior renovations were proposed, or substantial ones. And there have been, I don't believe we found any exterior changes that would have required permits since that time. So it's a dated facade, as you can imagine. And Tim jumped the gun with his question, or didn't jump the gun, but he, preempted me on that question, that the geographic area, the map does show that, as amended, that this area going into Webster Square Road is eligible for the facade program. And at the October 2020 Economic Development Commission meeting, they approved the application for forwarding to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other commissioners, anything else any other comments?
Joan, this is George Millard. I guess just
Yes,
looking
George.
over the staff comments, there were questions about whether the sign designs meet zoning requirements. Has that been resolved?
Maureen?
I'm sorry, my mistake. There were two other things I did want to mention. One was in your packet, I noticed when I opened my packet, the drawings weren't great and the copy. And so on your screen, you do have better pictures. But typically what the commission has done is if we don't get that calculation prior to the meeting, if you would put the condition on it that it meets the calculations are done in order to meet the zoning requirements at the time of permitting or adjusted so to meet them. The focus on the sign on this is that the freestanding sign appears to be illuminated because it's a box sign, and it looks like it was originally designed with a white background. If it's going to be updated, the commission may want to ask that it meet the current regulation. We can't take away a nonconformity, but with the update, perhaps the commission can advise them to darken the background.
Yeah, we can make that a stipulation. Yeah, especially in light of the fact that some of the signage in town, we've had to negotiate with the owners of the businesses or plazas to make sure it fits in.
Right on the other side of the bridge.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. And that resulted in the regulation as it reads now, which is no more than 1/3 of an illuminated sign background be white. This one appears as though that might be more than 1/3 white.
Yeah.
If fully illuminated, it may be darkened. It may not light up at night. Only the letters may, or it may not light at all. You know,
We'll have to
we
get
don't
those
have those
answers.
details. That
Yeah.
level of detail isn't usually developed when they bring in the facade application.
Okay, terrific. Okay. So how do we feel about this as is? Or,
I'll make a motion to approve with the following conditions that subject to staff comments and that the end product must comply with the existing regulations.
okay, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have a second?
Second, Timothy Zigma.
All right, thank you, Tim. Do you have further discussion? All those in favor?
And
Aye.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, roll call. Damn it.
we're going to do a roll call.
Okay.
Joan Healy,
Yes, aye.
Diane Jorsey,
Aye.
Brian Rogan,
Aye.
Timothy Zigma,
Aye.
Steve Wallman,
Aye.
Steve Biella Jr., Steve Biella Jr., you might be on mute,
Yep, I was on mute. Aye.
and George Millard.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
There we
And
have it.
so is Peter seated this time?
No.
No,
Okay.
not yet.
I wasn't sure if we added him or not.
Okay. All right, the next item is a discussion of the certificate of zoning compliance for Scarlett's Lash Boutique and Spa.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so this is Maureen. If you don't mind if I kind of start off this discussion.
right ahead.
We do have the applicant for the certificate of zoning compliance on the line. This and as background, I believe also have the property owner. And I believe his attorney as well. The attorney and property owner has just recently gone through a similar situation in another town with a similar use. And our attorney was also party to that from the town side with regard to whether or not the use is or could be different than your conventional tattoo parlor. So Some of you will be aware that a number of years ago, there was some discussion about whether tattoo businesses that require tattoo licenses or tattoo parlors were typical personal service businesses or some other category of use within the regulations. And in your packet, I included the 2014 discussion that the commission had with regard to that. That was a later conversation, I think, than the initial one commission had even prior to that. And that was at the time that a tattoo parlor was on Farmington Avenue that had to be relocated due to town property issues with the rezoning and the purchases for the TOD project. That tattoo parlor ended up off the Berlin Turnpike on Deming Road. However, it was a tattoo parlor. This certificate of zoning compliance is for Scarlett's Lash and Boutique in Mr. Orsini's commercial building at 220 Berlin Turnpike in front of, adjacent to the Acura dealership. The applicant is has provided information to support her demonstration that her use is not, although it requires a tattoo license because that's the licensing that the Department of Public Works has, Department of Public Health, I'm sorry, has, it is different than a tattoo parlor with cosmetic and perimedical cosmetic services. She's explained in her diagrams how some post surgeries, particularly breast cancer surgeries, etc. She does the work to correct the scarring or replicate the body the way it should be, the way it originally was, as well as some permanent services for permanent eyeliner and things like that. If Adam scrolls down on the services on that page, the permanent and semi-permanent cosmetics at the bottom of the page, you can see that there's different layers of dermis that traditional tattoo versus the permanent or semi-permanent cosmetics go down through. You can see it's right at the top under the skin layer. I guess it's all skin, but just the epidermis for the procedures that they would be doing there versus a traditional tattoo, which goes down to a lower level beneath the dermis into deeper tissue when tattoos are installed for more traditional, what we consider what would be thought of as a traditional tattoo, or someone might get for decorative purposes. I had consulted with our corporation counsel, concerned that the licensing or anticipating the question would come up because it's a license and the same license as a tattoo parlor gets. Would there be any trouble if the commission did find that this was a different type of pigmentation services, that that should they go out, another tattoo parlor would say, oh, they already had a license there, it's got to go, it's got to be okay. And she indicated that conditions can be put on to a certificate of zoning compliance that would specify that it was a different type of service. That said, I don't want to lead the answer. I don't want to lead your decision. I just want to tell you what we were all looking at when we were looking at it. In that there was that 2014 discussion and one previous to that when the tattoo parlor was incorrectly, I for lack of a better terminology put onto Farmington Avenue back in the earlier 2000s. I did not feel comfortable signing off on the certificate of zoning compliance, and I wanted to bring the interpretation to the commission to direct us as to whether the staff would be allowed to sign off on the certificate of zoning compliance. And then just as to bring full circle, you'll recall that typical commercial businesses, you gave a list of commercial businesses that would be allowed to go into the what was then the PSA zone for Mr. Orsini's building without needing an additional special permit. And so they're asking that this fall within those one of those uses as typical personal service for the zone.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions regarding this application?
Oh, and I will just, if I may, can I just remind you that the applicant as well as the attorneys on the line.
Oh, okay, terrific.
If you have questions, that I probably can't answer. Oh.
Oh. All right, thank you, Maureen.
Joan, I just have one question for Maureen or maybe Steve Woolman. With the 2014 discussion about having work sessions, did anything ever come of that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
No, nor I. And this is Commissioner Woolman, sorry. And you know, I would go to say that this use does not really come under the tattoo parlor scenario. And it would probably, you know, it's more of a spa. So, you know, I don't see there being a problem in giving Maureen authority on future to bless these type of uses because it's strictly really just not a tattoo parlor.
I agree with you, Steve. And I guess my concern is we should address it at some point and follow through and actually have the work session.
I would agree.
Okay, is there anyone else? Or Maureen, did you have anything?
I was just going to add to that, so I'll make a note of that and work to try to coordinate that with the commission, perhaps suggesting a timeline bringing you a timeline at one of the upcoming meetings, or perhaps you can come with who might be available to do one. A work session would have to, depending on the number of people involved, generally speaking, it's very few people. Commission members would require posting that work session as a subcommittee meeting, but that's all easily done.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
George again.
Yes, George,
Miller.
go ahead.
In looking through the information that was provided, I guess my only question would be, it says below are services listed that are currently being offered in our current business, 6 minutes down the road, blah, blah, blah. And I guess the two or whatever that are come into play are the permanent cosmetics and the paramedical cosmetics. I guess, is there anything else potentially that the spa would offer that might be questionable? You know, what other types of services, or would it, with regard to what the tattoo license is needed for, strictly be limited to these two areas?
Excellent question. We have our applicant and attorney representation. So Julia, are you with us?
Yes, I am right here.
All right. Would you like to address the question from Commissioner Miller?
Sure. So I think this was asked by Maureen earlier. The difference between the permanent cosmetics and paramedical. I mean, are you asking specifically if I can venture off into doing other type of tattooing under my license or in my shop? Or are you asking, does this extend into anything else other than what I provided?
Well, I'm asking, it says that these are the services we currently offer. Can you, if we said, okay, or approved this with the provisos that with regard to the under the tattoo licensing, only permanent cosmetics and paramedical cosmetics are allowed. Would that gate you from doing any additional things that you might want to do in the future? If so, what would those things be?
No, I think if anything, if you wanted to add something else, you could put microblading.
Okay, that was, okay.
As another type of treatment that is still, requires a tattoo license. But
Okay.
those are the three. But the beauty industry is forever evolving, and this permanent cosmetic industry is blowing up. So there could be another terminology for something, but it's specifically for cosmetic and for medical purposes. There should be no, artistic, additions for, the typical tattoo shops would be doing. And none of my my technicians or any of us are trained in that either. I mean, I don't have a tattoo myself. I couldn't draw, a skull on somebody if I wanted to, and none of my girls are able to do that either, because this is very specific training that we can't even get in a tattoo shop.
Well, again, some of what we're trying to address is, we wish you all the luck in the world and that you're very successful. But if 2 years down the road you end up going out of business and somebody comes in and says, "Oh, there was a tattoo parlor here before," unless we have the right wording here, we would be open to let somebody else in. So I think that's the concern.
Yeah, well, you
Commissioner
guys
Walt,
have
excuse me
the
one second.
ability to differentiate that and state that this is not a tattoo parlor. This is not a tattoo shop. This is a permanent cosmetic shop, paramedical shop. Do you have the ability to separate those two? So if somebody did want to come in, say we do allow permanent cosmetics and paramedical cosmetic tattooing, but we do not offer anything beyond that.
Okay. And I think that,
Commissioner Waltman, if I could jump
Yes.
in for a second.
yes, go ahead.
I think we could solve this fairly easy, where as part of her compliance, we address everything she wrote down that she's going to do. And if she decides to go beyond that purview, it has to be run by staff to receive permission. That way we don't set ourselves up for someone down the road trying to do something sneaky.
Okay. I'm more than happy to assist you. I've trained almost half of the health departments in the state on the difference between permanent cosmetics and tattooing. So I have a lot more information on the difference here that
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to submit to you guys.
Yeah, I think that all the points are very well taken. I believe that Mr. Millard is correct, in which case we have to look beyond what you're planning to do today to, make sure it's in line. That we're hoping that your business takes off, and we're hoping that you do very, very well. And there is a need for these types of services. And it's nice to know that there's something that we can refer others or people that we know have need of that. But there's that fine line, and we just want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves or that the compliance will be along the lines of what your business is designed to be.
Yeah.
And so with
I wish
that,
I
I
could
think that
give
we
you
can
a-
all, I think that we
which
can
I
all
could
come to
look
an
10
agreement.
years down the road, but I still don't think that these type of procedures will ever cross over into what a tattoo shop or parlor is.
Yeah.
I think it would stick to the basic cosmetic and paramedical.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for that. Is there, Mr. Edge, I see you fidgeting. Did you want to say anything about this particular?
No,
chime in.
What I stated was what I had found out about it. I was going to say the research on it being much more so for cosmetic, medical, and not being a tattoo. But you're totally in line with it on what I've seen, and I am good. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen, circling back to you.
I did want to comment. I was out of the office today, but I believe Adam called to my attention that we did get an inquiry that someone else had called the office looking into another similar business. I I guess I'd like to roll into that direction from you as to whether you would want to see, if we got additional applications with regard to this, to doing paramedical and cosmetic services, if you want staff to continue to bring those to you as well, or handle them with the same conditions, if, should you choose to allow us to do this one with conditions. If you just want us to carry that forward. So just food for thought, because it sounds like we got another inquiry. I did not get it, so I don't have any details with regard to it.
Okay, well, let's wait until you have a little bit more sound conversation, and then we'll know which way the commission will go. All right, any other commissioners have any comments or questions regarding this application, this commission? Anyone else? Okay, so
You need a
I guess
motion?
yes, if we do. If you can, go ahead. I need a direction, yeah.
Okay, I will make a motion that certificate of zoning compliance be approved by staff on the condition that the tattoo license activities are limited to permanent and semi-permanent cosmetics, and that any other activities that may arise in the future would be subject to approval by at least staff.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Joan, can I just comment?
Sure.
Should we add the microblading to that too?
Diane, do you want to amend the motion or?
Sure, I thought microblading was part of it, but I
No.
would be happy to amend the motion.
If you don't mind me jumping in, most women are doing microblading. That's probably where you're going to get a lot of inquiries, especially in hair salons and spas. There's going to be a girl trying to start a new service, which is strictly microblading. And a lot of them kind of stick to that. So you'll probably get a lot of inquiries just for microblading, but it does go into the permanent cosmetics as well as paramedical. So I would list the three.
So noted. So I will amend the motion to include microblading.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Rogan, I'll second. Oh.
Okay, who had the second?
Steve Biella.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Further discussion, comments? Then we'll do a roll call, I guess.
Bailey,
Aye.
Diane Dorsey,
Aye.
Brian Rogan,
Aye.
Timothy Zigmont, Tim Zigmont,
Yes.
Steve Wallman,
Aye.
Steve Biella Jr.,
Yes.
George Millard,
Aye.
and then please remind me, is Peter seated or not? Joan, you'll have to tell me. I didn't catch it at the beginning.
No, he's not seated, but this is just commissioner business, so I don't
Yeah,
know
it
that
is.
it carries weight.
The vote won't, isn't as significant, but it's good to have for the record regardless. So I appreciate the vote. I think it's a better way to handle it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and the next item is the Mid-Sun bond update. And
So
is that you again, Maureen?
yeah, it is. And I just wanted to give the commission an update and put it on the record so that it's in the minutes. You'll recall at the December 3rd meeting, the Planning and Zoning Department had gotten a notice that the bond being held for Mid-Sun, which is Hatchery Brook Homes on Fort Rod Road, was going to be rescinded by the bank, or was going to be not renewed by the bank. And they had not gotten a renewal prior to that meeting. And therefore the sidewalks had not been installed. And so the commission voted to call the bond. Prior to the town completing the processing to make a draft on that, which would then require that the town install the sidewalks. The applicant was able to get the bond renewed. And so that we do have now the bond in place, and we stalled the process of drafting that money from the bank. So that's where we are with that. That it has been typically what's been done in the past, but I want to make sure the commission is aware of that, the town has not taken possession of the bond funds for the town to complete the task. It's back on to the developer to complete the task with bonded funds.
That is good news. Very good news. So, but we don't need an action on that, correct?
No, I just wanted to provide an update.
Okay. All right. Speedily. Oh, all right. We're just speeding right through this agenda here. Okay. Next up, we have the minutes of approval for November 19th, 2020. For those who were here or with us, did you guys have a chance to look through the minutes for the meeting for the 19th of November, 2020? And if so, do we have any corrections or do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Diane. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second George Millard.
Okay, George has a second. Further discussion on that? Do we need a roll call for this, Maureen?
No, I think that the minutes can be by consensus, as long as
Okay.
you don't have anyone not in favor.
All right. Is there anyone who had, all right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, anyone opposed?
I abstain.
And that is who?
Timothy Goodman, I wasn't at the meeting, I abstained.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so it's just, okay, so we have enough. All right, so they're okay. All right. The December 3rd minutes of the meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve by Diane Jorsey. Do we have a second?
Steve Jr., I'll second.
Oh, okay, that was Steve Biella. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that was Peter. I'm sorry.
No, Steve Biella.
Steve Biella. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then all those in favor? Aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? No? Okay. All right. On to the next item. That's the minutes. So now we have the scheduling of a public hearing, which would be a special permit site plan amendment of A Missing Link LLC for a wine and spirits warehousing and distribution business. I am now at lot 6-3, block 90, 496 Four Rod Road. The suggested date you have is February 4th, 2021.
You're happy.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to schedule public hearing for February 4th.
Okay, and do we have a second for Diane's
I will
motion?
second, Steve Biella Jr.
Thank you, Steve Biella Jr. And further discussion on this? Any questions? And all those in favor? Aye.
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 Do we have anyone opposed? All right, so moved. New business, site plan amendment application of Robert Blanchette, Burgess Building and Engineering for a 38,450 square foot addition, Tom's Corporation, which is located at 47 Episcopal Road. Okay. Oh, there it is. There's that plan. Okay. Maureen, what do we have on this?
I believe
We have the applicant.
you have the applicant present to present their application.
Yes.
Okay. This business, this corporation was before us not too long ago. Is he on the line with us?
Yep, I'm on the line.
Okay. All right, so what do we have here?
Okay, I don't know if you can, you probably can't see it in the background that good, but you can see where the existing building is, and they have a driveway that comes up the left-hand side of the page, wraps around the rear of the building, comes back around the front, and then you'll see the pretty good size parking lot there right now. So previously, when they did the last additions, they had also gotten approval for the small addition there. It says previously approved, which was 133 feet wide, 92 feet long. And fortunately, business has been good, so they're actually looking at enlarging that addition to a total of 38,450 square feet. But where this is located, if you've ever driven down Deming Road, they actually have a large solar farm right in the front of the property right now. And what's going to happen is this addition is going to kind of creep into that, but there's a pretty good sized grade difference of about 16 feet from where the existing finished floor is now down to what the elevation of that solar field is. So part of the building is going to be 2 levels, as you would be able to see on the floor plans. The other good thing about this is when they did the last additions, they had a larger solar field there. They displaced some of those panels when they put the last addition in the parking lot. So what the plan is for this one is to take the panels that are actually, that this building is the addition's going to be over, put those on the roof, and then take a large number of the ones that they've had in storage and place those on the roof also. The way that we have the building set up, it does conform with all of the setbacks, the lot coverages. We're also showing on there a possible future addition if business keeps going the way that it has been going. So we are seeking approval for that. The only thing that we run into with this expansion and the other one would be, per the regulations, it would require more parking. With the way they run their manufacturing, it's a little bit different than things used to be in the past, where it was assembly and you had a lot of people to run a manufacturing plant. The nature of their business is it's larger machines and they have one person running several machines. So they wouldn't need the additional parking to service them right now. So what we did is, rather than installing that parking and, for one, creating a giant heat sink in the summer of more parking that's unused and creating more runoff, what we did on there is we demonstrated that we can fit all of the required parking on the site, all within the setbacks, all conforming to what you had. One of the comments that I noticed in it was as far as landscaping goes, but any expansion of the parking would involve the required trees, shrubs, all of that, landscape islands, all of that would be installed per the regulations. But at this time, even with this addition, they wouldn't need, for their own purposes, any additional parking spaces. So as far as pavement, we're actually deleting a little bit of pavement because it's going to be, some of the existing pavement is underneath where that addition is going to be. But we're not going to add any parking at this time just because it's not needed and they have empty spaces now. As far as the looks of the building, what we're going to do is, the building right now is a mixture of split face block, standard block, metal ribbed panel, and they call a Luca bond, which is a smooth face panel. And that's his office area. And it kind of gives it a little bit more of a higher end. And what we're going to do with this addition is run the panel, it's a flat panel, and run those horizontally so it has that higher end look, because it is going to be closer to the road. So we want it to go with a real nice look for the building on that. And we're looking at 3 colors. The majority of the body of the building, as you can see, is going to be a lighter gray color, which is kind of in keeping with the tones of what his building is now, and then what he wanted to mix in with was his corporate colors between the window bands of the red and that, I guess you would call it royal, more like a royal blue type color. But that's what we're looking at on the outside. I mean, he wants it nice. One of the other comments was the existing picnic area is going to be displaced or eliminated, but it's really not going to be eliminated. If you look at that bottom elevation on the right-hand side, we're going to create an enclosed patio area in there, a nice fenced-in area. What he wants to do is kind of create it to where security-wise, everybody would need their pass card to get in and nobody could wander in from outside. So it just keeps everything a little bit more secure. I'm not sure if you have any questions or if you want. I don't have a lot of comments, but if you want, I can run through those now as far as the comments that I have received.
Yes, go ahead at this point.
Okay, as far as staff comments, the town engineer comments are pending. I'm not sure if you've received anything back from them.
I have not, but Maureen, have you received anything maybe today? Or
I do
whatnot?
not believe any engineering comments have come in yet. They were rather
Okay.
backlogged with comments. What I'm envisioning and Mike kind of alluded to, although he really just did not have time. The deputy director was on vacation last week as well. But that their comments are things that are generally in this situation would be more to do with the drainage and the actual installation of things to work properly, and could most likely be addressed during permitting. If he had any, I would suggest if he has any comments that would alter anything that the commission, that would affect the commission decision with regard to the overall site design outcome, that then we possibly bring it back to the commission at that time. But I think anything he has would be a matter of permit type issues.
Yeah, the only thing that I can think of would maybe be the increase in drainage, but we've submitted drainage calculations for them. What we actually did was expand the existing underground detention system, which they had to accommodate the extra runoff. So that was one. Landscaping and parking islands in conformance with the regulation and to the satisfaction of the commission. Absolutely, we would be doing that if they ever did have to expand the parking. The applicant outlined a phasing plan for construction and associated erosion and sedimentation controls with the permit plans to limit the impact of construction and sedimentation and drainage into Deming Road and adjacent properties. There again, the sedimentation and erosion control plan and narrative accounts for all of that with silt fence on all the downslope areas. The way that this site is set up, everything kind of goes right into the center now, and then it's a it's pretty flat out there. So you're not going to get like a fast erosion issue out there, but all of that would be contained with sedimentation and erosion controls. All staff and department comments should be addressed. Handicap parking shall be designed to meet code, which there again, we're doing that.
Can I go, if this is Maureen speaking, can I go back
Sure.
to one of my comments for a moment, Chairman Veely?
Sure can.
One of the comments was with regard, the second comment was regard to the landscaping and parking islands. I noted in the design plan, site plan, that the parking area to the east of the building that goes out to Episcopal Road, the plan you last approved in 2019 showed islands at the terminal points of those parking strips, which I believe meets what the regulations would ask for, and they seem to be eliminated in order to accommodate an extra space here or there. But actually is part of it is just the design, was just a little different. And I just want to make sure that we can meet the regulations regardless of that, or have the applicant indicate that they can meet the regulations regardless, and or will install those islands and with the planting that was previously proposed, if that's what the commission wants to see continued.
Okay, I just have a quick question
Same
for you.
with
on
the
that.
long strip of parking in the front on going out towards Deming Road. An island may be required, or a peninsula may be required to break up that parking as well. Depending on, because there's one right in the middle that seems to be eliminated if they have to install what they're requesting to defer.
Okay, I just have a quick question on that because we weren't involved in the past construction of it. This was off of the survey that they gave us. So are you saying that the past approval had landscape islands, but they never installed them?
They might not have been installed yet. They're probably bonded.
Okay, so what you would want to see then is part of our construction is we would install those then.
Yeah, well, so this is an amendment to that approval. Because
Okay.
that's the most recent site plan that was approved. So this being an amendment to that approval, we should make sure that the things that were in compliance with that approval remain in compliance with this approval. For instance,
Okay.
you did adjust where the handicap parking spaces are and that's why I pointed out the elimination of the picnic area. The picnic area was newly proposed for that. And I wanted to point out to the commission that it was eliminated with your new design. So that's
Okay.
not calling it an issue, but calling it the fact that it's an amendment to what was previously designed. But I do
Okay.
think the islands are required on the other side.
Is there a way, do you have a copy of what the original approved plan was? Because what I could do is take that and then I'll go out there and see if what was previously approved, if when they did the survey, for some reason, they didn't show the islands, or if not, then I'll know where they're supposed to go as far as what was previously approved. I just want to make sure that we take care of any outstanding issues that weren't taken care of the last time around.
And we certainly would do that as well through the permitting process and through the fruition of the application. But yes, of course, we have the approved plan in the planning and zoning file.
Okay, yeah, if there's any issues, we'll take care of them with this.
That's very good to hear. I just have a quick question, if I may, for the applicant.
Sure.
Looking from Deming Road, and I just want to make sure that I understand, looking at your elevations and your proposed, the color chart you have to the back. That would be the south elevation, and the south elevation facing Deming Road would be covered in front. You had those fields of the solar panels, but those solar panels will now be lifted to the roof. So what will be breaking up the front of that south elevation? Or is that just the way it's going to look?
Yeah, not all of them. The only ones that are going to be displaced is where the building's actually going. And then the first 2 rows, just so they can actually construct the building. The 5 rows closest to Deming Road are going to remain.
Okay, all righty.
At this time,
My
because
thoughts were going.
Yeah, they have so many extra panels that are in storage that we want to maximize the amount of panels that we can use. So they're going to leave those on the ground and then put some of the ones that were displaced when they did the last edition that are sitting in trailers, is get those on the roof.
Okay.
So we're not going to disturb that. And then the landscape buffer that's in the front, that all remains. We're not taking out any of those.
Okay. All right. Other commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
So I guess this is George again, relative to what you just said, but aren't you seeking approval for the future edition too?
We're seeking approval for that one at this time too. If
So
that
then
was still-
all those solar panels would be removed if you go ahead with the proposed future addition.
they would all be removed, but the landscape buffer that's in front of those, that would still remain.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Commissions, anyone?
Wouldn't we normally look, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Diane.
wouldn't we normally look at the possible future addition when it's actually a future addition? It seems like it's kind of preliminary to approve the possible future addition.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. So in other words, you're saying we're just taking into account the proposed addition of the 38,000
Right.
and change?
That's all that's on our agenda right now is the 38,450.
Yeah, I think it is a little discerning to have it there. However, it's a point, it's a very valid point. We're only supposed to look at what's being proposed.
Yeah, the reason that we have, well, in the application, we are seeking approval for that too. Only reason being is the nature of his businesses seems to change rapidly, and he was looking at that as a time-saving issue. If he could get that approved now, because I think the approval is good for 5 years, then if he needed to put that on, it would just make life easier for him and kind of fast track the process of getting that addition built at the same time.
Yeah. So Maureen, is that something that is your understanding?
In the staff, I am up mute. Sorry, I thought I was muted. In the staff report, I did note that it was the 38,450 square feet with the future addition of 18,620. I do see now that that's not the way it's listed on the agenda. It is a site plan application. Legally, give me a minute to think about if that can be adjusted at the meeting because it's a site plan as opposed to a public hearing item. This is not a public hearing item. I think for to have a clean record, I would suggest that the second phase get looked at again, maybe possibly immediately at the next meeting or one right after. But I am concerned with that, and I'm sorry I did not realize that was not called out on the agenda in the total number. I scanned the words, not the details. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. Well, and I understand their want to have something lined up in case they need to expand again in a short time frame. I just want to make sure that down the road there's not an issue because we forgot to look at it or failed to look at it.
And the other thing too is that I'm looking at the pictures that we have, the renderings. Does that mean that the rendering represents the full build out?
That
Or is
just
the rendering?
Yeah, this is just for the portion. What we would do is extend that same look out all the way to the road. I understand what you're saying. You would want to actually see the elevations for that.
Well, I would want to see the elevations and I'd like to see what the building's going to look like. And then all of a sudden you've got what I perceived as some rows of solar panels in front. And I don't think you're going to have much room for that if you do that possible future addition of 18,620 feet.
Yeah, once they do the other one, then they would all go and they would all be placed on the roof at that point. But they're going to lay flat on the roof. They're not going to be elevated on grids like they are now.
And they're not going to be angled?
No, because they're actually laid flat on the roof at that point. They can actually, laying them flat on the roof, they're able to collect more solar energy than on the way they are now.
What's a it's a south, they're gonna be south facing, that's sun all the time.
Yeah, and on the roof, it's going to collect it totally. You'll be able to produce more energy sitting flat on the roof than on the angled racks like they have them now.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Zigmund. The solar panels, I understand the reason for solar panels and everything else, and I think they're the best thing going. If they're going to be laid down flat, then I don't have a problem. If they're going to be put up at an angle like they are on the ground, then we need some covering of the walls coming up a little higher or something to cover those mechanicals up on that roof. We probably need that a little bit just to cover whatever mechanicals are going to be up on that roof anyway.
Yeah, that the way they actually attach, it's standing seam roof. It's only a 1/4 and 12 pitch, so it's almost a flat roof. And they actually take those panels, lay them flat on the roof, and they actually clip it to the standing seam roof. So you won't even see those up there because the edge of the panel has to be 10 feet in from the edge of the roof, so they have a walkway if they have to service them, because they can't walk on the panel out to the edge.
I'm glad you're putting them on the roof because I don't like them in the ground. One reason I don't like them on the ground is because they're not level. And they go up and down the way to lay.
Yeah, it goes with the terrain.
The way the land is, the terrain is. And I think they should be set all level, whatever level they should be. I mean, you look at the Emhart ones on the opposite side of the big property there, and they're worse than these.
Yeah, Asa Abloy. They actually have, on the existing building, they actually have a bunch of panels now, but there again, they lay flat and you don't see them.
You know, and I hope they all go up on top of the roof. Because
that's the plan. We're getting most of them up there.
Okay. Maureen, I'm just trying to think of the comfort level here with the commission. I myself was under the impression that we were just going to do the proposed addition. Maybe what we can do is just address that, and then perhaps the next meeting, take up the possible future addition of that 18,620 square feet.
I'm fine with that.
You are okay with that? Only because
I'm fine with that. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
and maybe
because I'm
what we
looking
do at that point is then we can show like the full build up. If the parking's there, we'll show the trees, show the landscaping, and take care of everything all at one time.
Including perhaps an employee area. Picnic table.
Oh, they've got that. That's, if you look on the floor plan, they've got that fenced in picnic area now that they're going to have.
All right. Well, I thought we lost it, but.
No, it's actually the patio. If you look, it's right in the corner of the existing building and the proposed addition.
I see it. I stand corrected. Is that going to be big enough?
It's actually at this scale, it's actually good size. I think it's I can tell you what it is.
Everybody should have a place to hang out,
Yeah, it's over 1,000 square feet.
All righty.
So this is Maureen. That was going to be my recommendation as well, that the phase 2, while they've demonstrated that they have the availability to put in the parking, et cetera, if you defer any parking for this, for phase 1, that phase 2, regardless, come back and also have the elevations at that time and any proposed change to the landscaping so that you can get, the commission can have a clear understanding of what's happening. And just to clarify with the picnic area, it was adjusted. That's what I meant when I said the picnic area wasn't where it was going to be, because it's where so it was a change to the plan that was approved. I was calling it out. It was a change to that plan. I'm sorry for any confusion on that.
Yeah, no, don't worry about that. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I think it's because Commissioner Zigmund again.
Okay.
I think the wording on the building also should be, future proposed building. It should be phase 1 and phase 2. When we're approving it, phase 1, phase 2, it'll put in that 5-year plan. If it just says future, future has to come back.
I think if I understood Maureen correctly, we're just going to address the proposed addition tonight. And that the future or the possible future addition we'll look at that next go round.
Yeah, but the next go around, if he added it into phase 2 instead of future addition, the wording means we approve the whole thing. Future, he'll have to come back in the site plan again. I think. Hello?
This
Okay.
is Maureen again. I had one more notation to inquire with about because somebody brought it up and I didn't want it lost. But I think one of the commissioners asked for the record for a description of the new mechanicals, where they'd be, if there are new mechanicals, and just to describe where they'd be, so that they you could evaluate that they would be screened or otherwise, you know, to your satisfaction. So,
Okay.
So where are we with this? Are we going to postpone until the next meeting to give Mr. Blanchett an opportunity to make corrections to the plan, or what's your pleasure?
Well, I thought that we would go ahead and talk about what was proposed today, which was that 38-4 edition. And then he would come back with, as George Miller had noted, the possible future edition of the 18,620. In other words, that would be like an add-on. But in order to give them some direction for what they have here. But it's, what do you think about that, Maureen?
that's where I thought you were headed to.
Yeah.
But again, that's if the commission's not comfortable with the information and the, and for instance, the conditions that the town engineer be satisfied and the, previously approved parking versus, what's, shown not to your satisfaction, then we can ask them to fix that prior to the meeting as opposed to staff satisfaction. That's up to the commission.
Okay.
I would be okay with approving what we're discussing tonight. But have it identified on the plan as the phase 1, like Tim is suggesting. And then that second part, identify that as phase 2 so that it's clear in the record when, you know, like 10 years from now, when there's a whole other commission seated at the bench, it'll be more clear.
Nobody wants to be the lifer.
You're talking to them.
I can make that into a motion if you like.
Okay. Yes, please. I would like this very much.
Can I make a reminder that some of the required parking they are asking to be deferred, but have shown on the plan so that you can include that in the motion if you so desire? Don't forget the parking that he's asking to get deferred.
And there again, with the deferred parking, I'll show the landscaping and everything if they ever do have to build that. That way there you'll know it'll be built to exactly the satisfaction that you're looking for.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understand, Maureen. You want the deferred parking to be part of the plan?
Well, the proposed addition requires parking. You know, for that new square footage, they do the regulations require additional parking. However, they are showing that all the parking they're going to need for this edition as well as the next one, the future possible one, is shown on the plan, but they'd rather not install it because they don't need it. So I just want to make sure, like you said, as somebody looks at it in the future, it was clear that if that parking is demonstrated to be actually needed due to the number of people on site, that the staff enforcement officer has the ability to compel its installation.
Wouldn't we
Because
also
it was
have to,
determined to be needed.
but Maureen, we would also have to guarantee that there is a place for future parking.
And that's what he's shown that on the plan. He's shown the several areas that he's got dotted parking spaces extending out. Adam's using his little cursor on it right now. Extended parking towards the front where to Deming Road, I'm sorry. And then along the westerly side of the building, there's also more along their driveway. They have a couple of areas where they can install additional parking as well, that they're asking not to have to install because they don't need it, but they've shown the area that it can be installed in. And I remember several years ago, many years, pretty much when I started, I recall that there were several plans where there was deferred parking that the condition of approval was if the parking need was, if there was found to be a parking problem, then the enforcement officer had the ability to compel its installation because it was part of the plan if it's needed, but no sense in paved land when not necessary, or additional impervious surface when not necessary for the use.
All right. Does that help you with the motion, Diane?
Not at all.
Oh, sorry, Diane. I'm sorry.
This is.
Maybe we need some help with the motion. It's very complicated.
Excuse me.
Oh, who's this?
Mr. Ligmont.
Yes, Tim.
I think it's just better if we tabled it right now. He comes back with the full plan of the two pieces, and this, the proposed addition down the road and the proposed addition now, in phase, things just like we do subdivisions, the phase proposals, phase this as a phase proposals, give me the mechanicals on the roof, and give us the outlook of the building completed. I think there's too much that's got to be just engineering hasn't got to it yet. So I think we should wait that one meeting till we get all the information.
Was that in the form of a motion?
Yes. Yes.
So your motion is to,
Table to the next meeting where he can get the rest of the information we need.
all right, so we have a motion to table. Do we have a second for discussion?
I'll second. Steve Biella Jr.
All right, so Steve, and how are you feeling about this, Steve?
Could table it.
Oh, that's good. How about Steve Woolman? We haven't heard from you tonight. Any thoughts on this?
I just think this Commissioner Waltman, sorry.
Yes.
I just think we're trying to jam it in. I'd rather be more clear so we know what we're approving and that everything goes forward. And if he's okay with waiting another meeting, I don't see the harm.
Okay. And
When would the next meeting be?
let me look at my calendar.
Thursday next
I
month.
think it's around the 5th of February or something.
I'm sorry, this is Maureen. I was muted. I believe it's February 4th. I don't have a calendar right. in front of me.
Hang
Yeah,
on.
February 4th, we made a motion to put something on public hearing
Oh,
then.
right. We have a public hearing that night.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and would it be possible
February
for,
4th.
would somebody be able to email me that approved site plan just so I can verify the islands and get all that on the plan also?
Sure, we'll do the best. We can, I'll try to have staff do that tomorrow. I'm not able to come in the office tomorrow.
Okay.
But we'll try to get somebody on site to be able to get that to you.
Okay.
And for the commission, I just want to apologize. It is very difficult when we can't meet with applicants and talk to about these plans, really hashing them out as the course of the process, as we go through it.
Yeah.
Well, it's different. Because I do have some of the old copies of the plans, but I want to make sure I have the one that was stamped approved.
The stamped approved plan, we'll get that to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we have a consensus. Do we need to do a roll call vote on the motion, Maureen?
I think it's best.
Okay. Or do we want to just do an aye or an
You
nay?
should just do it as without a, no one opposed to continuing it, because you're allowed to continue it. You have no problem continuing.
Yeah, is there anyone opposed to continuing? Anyone opposed? Okay, so that means everyone's for it. So we'll see that the next meeting on the 4th of February.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And have a great night.
You too.
Okay, we're going to go into the public hearings. Let me see, and this is going to be for the 404 Berlin Turnpike. It's a zone change request and a site plan, a special permit site plan application. Do we need to read a call for the public hearing? And is there one, Maureen?
There is a call of the public hearing. I believe that Adam has a printout in front of him, but I also have it on one of my screens.
You need to read that into record, or can I just start with the?
It should be read into the record.
Okay.
If Adam would comment on that, he has it printed in front of him. I'm trying to pull it up on my other computer.
I got it. I'll read it. The Borough Planning and Zoning Commission will hold its regular meeting on Thursday, January 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. In Town Council Chambers, Town Hall, Kensington, Burlington. The public will also be able to access and participate in this meeting via WebEx video conference and conference call or via telephone conference call provided below. The WebEx information. The following public hearings will be held, at which time an opportunity will be given to those who wish to be heard relative to the following application. A, zone change request of BT 2008 LLC, change the zone at 404 Berlin Turnpike, Matlock Plot 10-2-83-12-7333, and MBL 10-2-83-12-7334. And MBL 10-2-83-13A and MBL 10-2-83-13C-7509 and MBL 10-2-83-13C-7510 from Berlin Turnpike Development Zone with BT1. Second public hearing is special permit and site plan applications of BT 2008 LLC for mixed-use development at 404 Berlin Turnpike, MBL 10-2-83-7333, MBL 10-2-83-12-7334, MBL 10-2-83-13A, MBL 10-2-83-13C-7509, and MBL 10-2-83-13C-7510.
Adam, finish that off with Brian Rogan, Secretary, Planning and Zoning Commission, posted in the Town Clerk's office, January 8th, 2020.
All right, thank you. So do we want to, I think there was a suggestion by Maureen to combine items A and B.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to combine items A and B.
Okay, we have a motion by Diane. Do we have a second?
Everybody's sleeping?
Do we have a second?
I'll second, Steve Biella Jr.
All right, thank you, Steve Biella Jr. And further discussion on combining items A and B. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone out there opposed? Okay, hearing none, let's proceed. Okay, this is sort of an interesting application because right now we have two consultants that have been hired that are helping with the review. And neither is finished with their work to allow us their input. However, in speaking with Maureen, it was found that the applicant wanted to proceed with opening the public hearing for the sake of the presentation and perhaps getting that on its way to help move the project along. So at this point, we turn to the applicant, and here is your chance to begin addressing the commission.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is Attorney Peter Alter. I represent applicant, developer of the site that has been the call.
Okay, thank you.
We have a number of people that will address the commission tonight. Peter Diadio is the owner's representative. He may have some input. In addition to myself, you will hear from Matt Bruton of BL Companies. He's our civil engineer for the project. Scott Hesketh of Hesketh Associates is our traffic engineer, and Mark Joyce is our architect. We wanted to appear before the commission tonight because, as has been noted, this is a fairly significant project with many aspects to it. We fully expect that it will take more than one night of public hearing for the commission to fully vet the project and to hear from your consultants as well. And what we anticipate is that at the end of this evening's presentation, the commission would continue the public hearings to a date probably not February 4th, unless Maureen indicates that her consultants will be able to reply by then. But likely the next session that we would have would be after receipt of the consultant's analysis, so that if there are some adjustments to the plans, they can be made. And if there are issues that come up, we can respond to them at the next public hearing session. So we do not anticipate any action tonight at all. All we expect is that you would continue and leave the public hearings open for the next session. And that would be when you would receive your consultant's information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Rogan, are either of our consultants on the line right now?
I believe I saw Dr. Poland on the line. He's one of your consultants.
I believe both firms, this is Maureen, I believe both firms are on the line. I do see that Dr. Poland is on, and I think Bob Bernarski is on, but perhaps he can identify himself if he is from WMC.
Yes, Maureen, I'm here. Bob Bernarski, WMC.
Okay. All right. And will, I mean, just for me personally, I was unable to log in via the web video. So I am joining this meeting by phone. So for me, that poses a little bit of a challenge to view anything that was visual in this presentation. I don't know that the size and magnitude of this project, I don't know if anybody else in the public might have had the same trouble that I had trying to get into this meeting. I just don't know if this is the right time to be addressing this because of the way that we have to go about holding this meeting. Personally, I would like to be seeing it in person, but that's just my thought. I don't know if any other commissioners would agree with me.
Well, I think that we had a lot of people having problems logging on. And I can appreciate the fact that you're hanging with us, even though it's just by phone. And I understand that you can't see the visual presentation that they have, though I'm sure that we'll be able to, as we are just opening the presentations, I'm sure by the time we get around to our next public hearing, I'm hoping that we might be able to get back into the town hall. And at least then, even if we're doing a Zoom meeting, we'd still have the material in front of us, access to it. So I do appreciate you hanging in there with us, Brian, okay?
Okay.
Can I make two comments with regard to that, or at least one?
Absolutely.
I do think that, particularly since Mr. Alter commented that they didn't expect to continue the hearing to the immediately next meeting, that by the second meeting in February, maybe the numbers will be lesser and the town will feel some, perhaps there'll be some opening up of public buildings. But, we just don't know at this point as far as in-person meetings go, and the direction from the town manager and town council on that. But the other item, and perhaps for even any other callers' knowledge, is that once the meeting is done, hopefully tomorrow, barring no issues, we'll be posting the video on the website as well, because as per the executive orders, all the WebEx meetings are put, or the video conferences are put on the website and can be re-listened to or watched in real time on that tape that's posted, and otherwise provided to anyone who'd like to see them. So I wanted that on the record.
Very good, Maureen. Thank you. Okay. So
Okay.
let's circle back. So we have Mr. Bruton.
This is Peter Alter. I'll turn it over to Matt Bruton shortly. There's some items that I did want to cover before we get into more technical aspects of the plan with our engineers and architect. As the call calls out, this is a request for a change of zone to the Berlin Turnpike Development Zone. And just to refresh everyone's recollection, including the public that may be interested, this regulation for the Berlin Turnpike Development Zone was a commission-initiated addition to your regulations, which you adopted in May of 2019. And the property that is before you, which consists of 35.5 acres on the westerly side of the Berlin Turnpike, that is the southbound side of the Berlin Turnpike, is a prime example of the type of property for which this particular regulation was adopted, we believe. There are a couple of questions that we have. We don't expect the answers tonight, but we are asking that staff and your consultants deliberate and provide the commission with some guidance, and then the commission can provide us with guidance. There is a bulk requirement within the Berlin Turnpike Development Zone regulation that says that the minimum lot size shall be 10 acres. There's other language earlier in the regulation that says that an assemblage of parcels has to be at least 10 acres. We have 35.5 acres, so we don't have an issue in terms of acreage. Our question is, once, assuming the commission sees fit to approve this application, once the application is approved, does the regulation require us to leave 10-acre parcels intact, or can we create subdivided or smaller parcels within that zone once the plan is approved. We can meet your regulation in either event, but we need to know what the interpretation by the commission is in that regard so that our plans can fully comply with what your expectation is. And again, we're raising that issue tonight, not asking for an answer, but making you aware that it's a matter that we need some direction on in order for us to provide appropriate plans that meet the regulation. The other point I would like to make before I begin, since you had a discussion about your plan of conservation and development and the fact that you're coming up to 10 years when you must renew it, is that in your plan of conservation and development of 2013, particularly section 4.3, the Berlin Turnpike in the decade ahead, which is what we're in, although just barely, speaks to the kind of development that we are proposing. And if you take the opportunity, I won't read it to you because I don't think that's a good use of time. But the sections of your plan of conservation and development that speak to development in the Berlin Turnpike corridor, I think after you have a chance to understand this plan, as you will tonight, and then read your plan of conservation and development, I hope you'll agree with me that this plan is directly on point with the goals that this commission set up in 2013 to promote development in the Berlin Turnpike corridor. So I think that it's worth reviewing that, since you're going to redo your plan of conservation and development over the next couple of years anyway. I think this is worth reading. I found it very instructive. We have about 840 feet of frontage on the Berlin Turnpike. Adam, I don't know whether you or Matt have control of the PowerPoint.
I believe Matt has control.
Thank you.
Yep. Peter, let me know where you want to go.
Thanks, Matt.
This is Maureen, if I may, just because you're going to have, it appears as though you have a different, you may have a PowerPoint, a different presentation than we have in PDF form that we've already posted. If it is a difference, then the materials we've already posted. If tomorrow or later we can get a copy of that forwarded to our office, we'd appreciate that. Digitally, so we can post it.
No problem. We'll email it to you directly.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The first slide that we're looking at is a picture of our overall parcel, 35.5 acres. It consists right now of 3 distinct pieces or parcels of land, a small parcel that's landlocked in the middle, and then 2 parcels that exist as of record at the moment. The total is 35.5 acres. You'll notice a white triangle directly in the middle of the property. That is Town of Berlin property, in which there is a sewer pump station located. We have worked with Berlin Town staff in that regard. There was an indication that staff was concerned that they needed to be able to access their site, and we've worked out an arrangement with the town so that the needs of the town and the sewer pump station will be accommodated in a way that protects the town's ability to service and manage its pump station, and if necessary, work at it, and also to accommodate this development. So that is a matter that we've worked through already with the town, and I believe that the town is satisfied with the arrangement that's been arrived at. The as you'll notice, and for those of you who can't see the property outline, the southern property boundary of this property is very irregular because it follows the Mattabesett River in its boundary. We're bounded by the Mattabesset River. And a portion of this property is within the flood zone. We spent a great deal of time and effort working with the Inland Wetlands Agency and the Flood Zone Agency. That's the same body. They sit as two different agencies. And after what anybody could characterize as an exhaustive review, peer review by your consulting engineer, presentation by our expert, the agency granted the necessary permits, both flood and inland wetlands activities, so that this project can go forward. So we come to you tonight with all wetlands and flood zone permits in hand with respect to this project. And I will say that your Inland Wetlands Agency did a very, very thorough job, as did your consultant. And I think that the result is a good one for both your town and for the developer in terms of being able to move this project forward without presenting any risk or undue problems with respect to either wetlands or the flood zone. So those permits are in hand. You could go to the next slide, Matt, please. Thank you. One of the provisions of this regulation is a phasing of the development of the parcel. And this gives you some concept of the complexity or the intricacy of this development. A great deal of the property will remain open and in its current condition. It's heavily wooded. It has some very, very nice areas that will remain in their natural and scenic condition as they exist now. The development envelope is as shown on this slide. It's broken into 4 phases. It's a mixed-use development, which is what the regulation expects. Our phase 1 is the development of a 10-pump filling station, a 3,320 square foot convenience store with a coffee shop drive-through associated with the convenience store. It is on the southerlymost portion of the development envelope for our property. And you'll see later in Matt's presentation on the detailed site work and also in the architecturals that this will be exactly what is contemplated by the regulation, in that the retail and commercial aspects of the development are along the Berlin Turnpike, and the residential component is set back from the Berlin Turnpike, but that there is a great deal of pedestrian and easy access for the residents to gain access to both the retail and commercial activities that would be developed along the Berlin Turnpike corridor. Phase 2 is a 5-building construction with 5 carport accessory buildings consisting of 200 apartment units. They will have studio apartments, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments for rental. These apartments will meet expectations that 20% of the units will be affordable. You'll see in a later slide that we have presented an affordability plan we believe is consistent with the requirements of the regulation that you enacted and has been developed, and we have presented a written plan that I'm sure will be reviewed by Dr. Poland and your consultants. There will be 4-story buildings. There will be carport covered parking shown on the carports, parking underneath, and controlled access to the apartment, the residential portion of the site, to function as a gated entry so that only residents will have access to the 3 entries or exits from the site, the residential portion of the site. Matt is indicating with his pointer where those access points would be. Each one would be gated to provide some measure of separation between those people who come to the site to make use of the commercial or retail facilities versus the people who are actually living on the site. You'll notice that there is a clubhouse development with a swimming pool just below the red number 2 in the site plan. This would be for residents of the complex as an amenity for the people living there to be able to have that opportunity. In addition, a portion of the green space that makes up this project will have walking trails. Interestingly, one of the things that we've discovered in the construction and occupancy of apartment complexes through the greater Hartford area is that while these apartment complexes don't produce a number of children for the schools, and we'll show you those figures in a moment, they do produce a large number of pets. It seems like people who live in apartments like to have dogs. And so every apartment complex that's been developed recently has walking paths for people to walk their dogs and opportunities for outdoor activities. This project has that opportunity in this just south of the apartment complex. There will be some opportunities for walking paths, all as part of phase 2. Phase 3 will be the development of a 7,280 square foot retail building shown on the plan. We expect that there will be a bank branch within that building and then approximately 3 retail spaces that can be occupied facing the Berlin Turnpike. And finally, phase 4 is a 100-room hotel. We do not have a particular user right now. For those of you who follow these kinds of things, the hospitality industry has been significantly impacted by the pandemic. Most hotel chains are working towards the time when the pandemic will hopefully come to an end through vaccine or otherwise. And so it is Mr. Diadio's plan that would be phase 4. And as the pandemic moves away and people begin to travel again, either for business or pleasure, there will be an opportunity to attract a national hotel chain that would take on this 100-room hotel as part of the phase 4 development of the project. We're showing a total of 534 parking spaces on the site, and we'll give you the breakdown of how that is arrived at as we go through this presentation. Matt, you want to go to the next slide for 1 sec, please? I'm going to turn over the presentation now to Matt Bruton of BL Companies. He's our project engineer. He's going to walk you through some of the intricacies of the design and how it will work and function in terms of the development and also highlight the manner in which it complies with your regulation. Go ahead, Matt. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. For the record, my name is Matthew Bruton. I'm a civil engineer with BL Companies located, our headquarters are in Meriden, Connecticut. Thanks for having me tonight. I'll walk you through the next couple of slides and hopefully be able to answer any questions you may have at the end. As Peter indicated, this is the overall site plan up on the screen now. As mentioned in previous slides, the red boundary that I'm tracing with my mouse now is the overall property line. You can see behind our drawing is an aerial photograph of the area, and you can clearly see the Mattabesett River on the southern boundary, as Peter indicated, with the unique property boundary. In addition to that, there is a significant amount of wetlands on the property, which are indicated in these hatched areas here, which is the majority of the rear of the lots. There are upland areas, as discussed previously with the Wetland Commission, and one of them will be utilized for some on-site recreation as we get into this. In general, as you can see, the Berlin Turnpike is to the right of the screen where I'm tracing now. Currently, the site is only occupied with a small residential building and warehouse, largely undeveloped. We do abut, as I mentioned, Mattabesset to the south, and to the north, there is a mixture of residential properties, including Broughton Auto Dealer and the Fieldstone Crossing developments. And as I mentioned before, wetlands are on site and FEMA flood zones, which were extensively reviewed during the inland wetland process. I'm going to go to the next slide, which is just focused in on the front half of the parcel, which is the development pad. I'm going to just point out some site features to help everyone orientate themselves. Again, Berlin Turnpike's on the right. We are proposing several curb cuts along the Berlin Turnpike for multiple access points to this mixed-use development. Scott Hesketh can go into those in more detail. As you can see, we are preserving the sanitary pump station. Obviously, that is surrounded by our development on 3 sides. As Peter mentioned, a hotel up front with parking surrounding as well here with the retail building with drive-through that encompasses on all 3 sides. We do have some retaining walls between the development to do with the topography changes on site. And we do have an interconnection between the northern portion of our parcel and the southern portion, which is the convenience store and gas canopy. This interconnection has been vetted out with town staff to date, along with consultants for the pump station to make sure that it meets the development's needs, but also doesn't hinder future development for the replacement of the pump station. As we've been told, upgrades are planned, but not a specified timeline at this point. As I'm just move back towards the site, as Peter mentioned, this would be phase 2. So there's 5 residential buildings with a clubhouse and a pool area. There's parking, as you can see, in these areas here that would access underneath each building. So for subterranean parking, and there's also carports on the exterior as well that I'm highlighting with my mouse. So there's 5 of those on site. And then below down here to the southern portion is the convenience store with the wraparound drive-through for a coffee shop and the gas canopies. In general, everything you see here in green is proposed landscaped area. Everything you see in gray is a asphalt pavement. This kind of tan color is on-site concrete for pedestrian walks and patio areas, and the orangey color is a proposed structure. What we're proposing here does meet your regulations in terms of the mixed-use developments, also complying with height and setbacks, open space, things of that nature. Then the next slide, I can show some of the more of those charts. In general, utilities are all available, either on site or in the street. That includes gas, water, electric, telephone, and sanitary. And as I mentioned before, we are coordinating with your consulting engineer on the pump station activities. For this development, we are obviously increasing impervious area on site, and we are providing a stormwater management system that complies with town regulations and the Connecticut Stormwater Manual. That stormwater management system consists of catch basins with hoods and deep sumps, hydrodynamic separators, a subsurface attention system, and a water quality basin. The majority of these items are subsurface to the parking lot. I'll just point out a few of them. There's a system underneath the parking lot by the hotel. There's a water quality basin behind the carport and above the convenience store. And in general, the system, which was vetted out by WMC during the inland wetland process, decreases the peak flow to Route 15 in the northern wetlands, does increase the peak flow to the wetland, but overall maintains drainage patterns and makes water quality improvements. So the discharge from this development area is clean as it gets discharged to the wetlands and eventually to the Mattabesset River. In addition to what we show on the plan here, the plans that the town received do include erosion and sedimentation control. These are plans that would be implemented by the developer and the contractor during construction. And the goal of these is to prevent the mitigation of soil and material during construction, from preventing them from getting into the wetlands, protecting the Mattabesset, and also public infrastructure on the Berlin Turnpike. So items that we've included in our plans that include silt fence, silt sacks, hydrodynamic, temporary sediment basins, construction entrances, and erosion control matting. Those types of items would be in place until the site is stabilized, at which point they can be removed and this final condition can exist. Moving on to some of these zoning charts, just blown up for clarity. In general, we do comply with all the regulations. As Peter mentioned, there was a question about minimum lot size of 10 acres and how that can be parceled out to your interpretation. So in things of building setbacks, maximum stories, building height, parking setbacks, loading yards, things like that nature, we are all in compliance. We do have, as Peter mentioned, 534 parking spaces on site. One item in use proposed on the parcel is up to the commission to determine, and that is the hotel. We have allocated 80 spaces towards this as part of the development, with the asterisks here that we are providing a shared parking demand letter, which Scott Hethkes can go into more detail. So at this time, just something to consider, the parking demand as relates to the hotel. In addition to what else we showed on the plan, not only are the green areas landscaped in terms of different types of seating, but we do have the site interparsed with proposed trees and shrubs, so it's an attractive development, and there would be site lighting as appropriate for safety and security, LED, dark sky compliant, full cutoff fixtures. That's kind of a quick high level highlight of the site plans. I'm sure as you've seen these, there are a lot to digest. So I'm happy to answer any questions as they pop up. But for the moment, I think I'll pass it back to you, Peter.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. We have submitted a number of reports and documents as part of our submission in accordance with the requirements. And these are just face sheets of those items. We have consulted with the Berlin Police Commission with respect as to the Legal Traffic Authority. Scott Hethkes will speak to that in a moment. As I indicated, our experience is that apartment complexes, as the one we propose, typically produce very few school-age children. We provided a report that was compiled for a number of different apartment complexes around the area, Rocky Hill, Glastonbury, and South Windsor, to give you some indication of what our expectation is with respect to any impact this would have on the Berlin school system. I also indicated that our plan is to provide 20% affordable units in accordance with the expectations of this regulation. And we have submitted a plan in that regard to be reviewed and put into place. And then finally, we had our real estate appraiser provide you with an analysis in terms of a market survey done at the end of October last year. Mr. Lamonte is a licensed real estate appraiser and consultant, and he provided us with a full real estate market survey report, all of which has been submitted. I don't expect that anyone has read any of this at this moment. But over the course of the next couple of weeks or 4 weeks till we come back to see you, hopefully you'll have the opportunity to look at some of this. We'll be happy to answer any questions and obviously respond to any concerns that your consultants have as these matters are reviewed. But we believe that we've provided you with the basic information that you would expect to better understand. Although you refer to it as an environmental impact report, I think it's more a community impact report, since the true environmental issues, have been significantly vetted by your wetlands and flood zone agencies. With that, Scott, if we go to the next slide, and Scott Hesketh, our traffic engineer, can walk you through. I'm sorry.
Peter, me first, I think.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. Sorry, got out of step there. Go ahead.
No problem. Again, for the record, Matt Bruton from BL Companies. Just wanted to point out one aspect of the project. I would be interested in the town and the commission. So of the 35 acres that are available on the property, the proposed lot, it could be divided into several different areas. One is shown in green here towards the rear of the property is potential conservation land of around 19 acres, which is highlighted in green. And then the blue area here is proposed recreation area totaling just under 4 acres. This would be intended to be used by the residents of the development to the north here, but also with public access as well here, as shown by some parking spaces and a crossing here as well. Obviously, you can see some pictures of the area as part of our site investigation. And the slide here gives you perspective. So the blue area would be the recreation area I just spoke about. The conservation land, the rear of our parcel, around 19 acres, is circled here in green. And as you can tell, usually commissions are concerned about putting land in conservation when only if it makes sense in terms of what's abutting it. In this case, the abutments are appropriate, so the conservation land would fit in with the greater area. To the left, yellow, City of New Britain at 43 acres of undeveloped land, and then to the south, Town of Berlin with another 66 acres, and then a sliver as well here, Town of Berlin, for 2.5 acres. So these areas could be maintained in their pristine condition, providing the environmental benefits that they do now. So I will, I think, now pass it along to Mr. Hesketh.
Thank you, Matt. I hope everyone can hear me. Matt, if you don't mind, I think I'll go to slide 11. Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Hesketh. I am a licensed engineer in the state of Connecticut. I have a master's in civil engineering, specializing in traffic, and I am a partner here of the firm of F.A. Hesketh and Associates. Our office is in East Granby, Connecticut. It's been my responsibility to prepare traffic impact reports and analyses for developments such as this for nearly 30 years. I am the author of the traffic impact report dated March 12th, 2020, which has been submitted in support of this application. The report which we have prepared presents the trip generation and potential traffic impacts of the proposed site-generated traffic related to this development and its impacts on the local roadway network. We have shared our report with the Berlin Police Commission. It's been submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission for site plan and zone change approval. And at the appropriate time, we'll be submitting to the Office of the State Traffic Administration for a certificate as a major traffic generator for this development. In preparing our report, we relied on CONDOT traffic volume counts and manual turning movement counts provided to us by reliable traffic counts. The DOT data is from April of 2017, and the manual counts were conducted during August of 2019. The Department of Transportation data is presented in our report in Table 1 and presents the traffic volumes on the Berlin Turnpike south of Route 160. Intersections where manual turning movement counts were conducted were the Berlin Turnpike at Route 160, Deming Road, and at Route 15, the Berlin Turnpike at Woodlawn Road and Worthington Bridge. We used those traffic volume counts, applied a 1.5% per year growth rate to a design year of 2022, when it is anticipated that the development will be open and in operation. In order to project the traffic volumes for the proposed development, we researched the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Report. It presents traffic engineers and land use planners data on existing developments, which they can use to project traffic volumes at proposed developments. Included within the database are land uses such as hotel, apartments, shopping center, bank with drive-through windows, and convenience stores. The trip generation for each of those uses was calculated separately and added together to generate the traffic volumes for the proposed development. Based on that analysis, during the morning peak hour, we are projecting a total of 568 trips. During the afternoon peak hour, 655 trips. And during the Saturday peak hour, 601 trips. Approximately half of those trips are related to the convenience store, and therefore a large proportion of that traffic can be considered as pass-by traffic, or traffic that is not new to the roadway network, but simply makes use of the use as it passes by. For purposes of our study, we used a 65% pass-by credit for the convenience store development. We distribute the traffic generated by the development in a distribution with approximately 50% of the traffic to the north, 35% to the south, and approximately 5% of the site traffic each to Deming Road east and west of the intersection, and to Woodlawn Road. As indicated earlier in the presentation, we did present our report to the Board of Police Commissions back in February of 2020. We presented them 3 different access scenarios for this development. The first scenario was we presented 3 right-in and right-out driveways to the development. Because of the median on the Berlin Turnpike, right-in and right-out access would be appropriate. A second scenario that we presented was we had 2 right-in and right-out driveways to the convenience store development, and a right-in, right-out, and a left turn in to the residential commercial development on the northern side of the property. Under that scenario, we would create a median break in the Berlin Turnpike to allow northbound left turns into the site. And the third scenario we presented to the commission was right-in and right-out driveways for the convenience center and a full access signalized intersection at the commercial development on the north end of the property. We can go to the next slide now, Matt. We discussed the pros and cons of each of those scenarios with the police commission, and the commission provided us a letter dated February 21st, indicating that it was their preference and recommendation that we provide a full access signalized intersection and a new median break on the Berlin Turnpike. The report has been written based on that development scenario. In the screenshot before you now is the proposed signalized intersection. It would be our intention to create a new median break on the Berlin Turnpike, provide a northbound left turn lane within the existing median, and to signalize the intersection so that the site driveway, you would be allowed to make right turn and left turn exits from the commercial development. We conducted capacity analyses for the 3 signalized intersections at Deming Road, the proposed site driveway, and at Woodlawn Road. And we also conducted capacity analyses at the 2 right turn in and out driveways for the convenience center. The results of that analysis are presented in Table 4 of the report. The analysis indicates that with this proposed development scenario, we would see minor increases in delay at the Deming Road and Woodlawn Road intersections, and that the proposed signalized driveway would operate at a level of service B during the morning and Saturday peak hours, and at a level of service C during the afternoon peak hour. The driveway approaches to the unsignalized intersections for the convenience store would operate at levels of service B or C during the peak hours. In addition, we reviewed the available intersection site distance for the proposed site driveways, and it was determined that the site distances are in excess of 665 feet in each direction, meeting the DOT criteria for 60 mile per hour speed. The turnpike is posted at 50 miles per hour in this area. Based on the existing and projected traffic volumes, the anticipated site-generated traffic, and with the installation of the proposed median cut and the traffic signal at the proposed site driveway, it is my professional opinion that the approval of this development will not result in a significant impact to local roadways. The proposed site driveways are properly located with respect to adjacent intersections and with respect to available intersection site distances, and they can be properly designed to accommodate the anticipated traffic volumes. The project will not result in a detriment to public safety. One other item I was tasked with was to provide a review of the proposed parking for the site. Matt, if you can go back to slide number 10, it's probably a good time to do that. So our office was asked to prepare a letter regarding the parking for the site. We submitted a letter dated November 8th, 2020, which should be part of the record for you this evening. In the town's ordinance, let's talk about the apartment units first. In the town's ordinance, the requirement is for all apartment units to provide 2 spaces per unit. We took a look through the published data and through other studies provided by our office in the past. And all of the published data and our own findings indicate that parking requirements for apartment developments are significantly less than 2 spaces per unit. In fact, the Institute of Transportation Engineers indicates a maximum parking usage of 1.47 spaces per apartment unit, or 0.87 spaces per bedroom. The Urban Land Institute recommends 1 parking space per studio apartment, 1.05 spaces for 1-bedroom units, and 1.8 spaces for 2-bedroom units. Studies conducted by our office, local developments indicate that apartment developments require 1.28 spaces per unit, or 0.73 spaces per bedroom. Again, all of the published data is lower than the 2 spaces per unit that the town requires. Considering that there are 40 studio units and only 40 2-bedroom units proposed for this development, the number of parking spaces that the applicant proposes for the residential portion of this development should far exceed the number of spaces that will be utilized if this development is approved. Looking at the rest of the development, we looked at the parking requirements for that as well. For this, we reviewed the shared parking published by the Urban Land Institute. It presents many tables and a computer program for us to review the parking requirements for individual land uses to determine what the peak parking rates would be for a mix of different uses. Several scenarios were reviewed. The results of the ULI analysis indicate that the retail and hotel portion of this site will have a peak parking demand of 82 vehicles during the 11 a.m. hour on a weekend. And the proposed site plan provides 102 parking spaces in that area of the site. There's also an additional 9 spaces on the northerly side of the convenience store, and an additional 33 spaces, including an additional 10 spaces in the convenience store development itself. So we believe that the commercial portion of this development, based on the ULI analysis, has sufficient parking to accommodate the typical max usage of this development. We're asking the commission to determine that the hotel, because of the shared use nature of the development, would require 80 or fewer parking spaces. And with the understanding that during the nighttime when the retail portion is closed, that there are 102 spaces available for the hotel use. If the commission does decide that the 80 spaces is appropriate for this particular use, the parking which we are providing for the site will fall within the zoning regulations of the town. So based on the review of the ITE and ULI data and the proposed mix of uses on the site, the amount of parking provided by the applicant is sufficient to accommodate the regularly occurring peak parking demands for the site. If any overflow occurs, there is additional parking located in the convenience store area to accommodate that overflow. So at this time, that's a summary of my report. I will be available to answer any questions the commission might have at the appropriate time. And at this time, I'd like to turn the program back over to Attorney Alter for additional comments.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Pete.
Okay.
Apologize. We're going to go to Mark Joyce, our project architect. And I did want to mention one thing before we ask Mark to provide you with his information. You'll notice that the retail building and the hotel building are simply white structures. Obviously, that's not what we propose, but
hope not.
we cannot project what hotel chain will arrive to make use of the hotel site. And until we have the tenants better suited for the retail site, it's difficult to show you how that building might be configured. It would be our anticipation that if we do not have those tenants identified so that we can show you actual architectural renderings of what those buildings would look like, that we would ask you to approve the use in that location and the size of the use as we project it and present it to you, with the expectation that when those buildings in phase 3 and phase 4 of the development are ready to be developed, we would come back to you for a review of the architecture of each of those buildings. We are not asking you to approve something you haven't seen, and we fully expect that that would be a condition of approval, that at the time we would be seeking a building permit. Before we could secure that, we would come back to the commission for an architectural review of each of those buildings. With that, Mark, if you want to go ahead, we can.
Thank you, Peter. Everybody can hear me? Yes? Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Joyce. I'm an associate principal at Phase Zero Design out of Simsbury, Connecticut. We're the architect for the project. Matt, can you go to the site plan? I just want to talk a little bit about sort of navigating the site a little bit. Keep going back if you would. That's fine. I can explain it here. So as Peter mentioned, sort of the focus of my sort of conversation or presentation is going to mainly focus on the multifamily residential buildings, the 5 block buildings that we've been talking about. The think a little bit about how the topography of the site and therefore the siting of the buildings work. You can see sort of the center streetscape coming through the development. That's sort of, if you can think of it as an uphill side of the topography. So as that streetscape relates to the buildings, you'll have 4 stories of residential sort of greeting you on either side of the street. We'll landscape the street, doing street trees, site lighting, and site amenities and benches and so on. But the idea is to try to create somewhat of an intimate streetscape. As you navigate to sort of the back sides of the buildings, heading to the north and then to the south, the topography comes downhill and therefore exposing the basement level, which houses primarily the parking spaces, which are underground or in the basement level. Okay, now you can sort of go ahead. So that's sort of the basic topography and site of the buildings. Keep going. I'm going to come back to the facades. Go to the floor plans if you would, Matt. Thank you. So ground, sort of what we're calling the ground level, which is actually the basement level, primarily is dedicated to parking. We do have vertical circulation in the form of elevator and stairs as required by code. We do have tenant storage areas, small storage bins. I think 28 storage bins sort of per building. There's 40 units in each building, so not quite enough for each and every unit to have storage. But if you were a resident here, you would rent 1, 2 storage bins, whatever your need may be. We are able to house 21 parking spaces within the footprint of the building, and then the balance of the parking would be outside of the building. So basically, again, kind of looking at 40 building, you'd be looking at one if you had 2 cars. In the case of, let's say, a 2-bedroom unit, you would have 1 car potentially inside, 1 car outside, or the lease would be negotiated such that you would have 2 cars inside. As has been noted, we do have a lot of parking on property to accommodate every resident as by the zoning bylaws. If you can go back up 1 slide, Matt, to the typical. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. You're going to go forward. Yeah, to the typical floor plan. Sorry. Each level of living is basically identical. It's 10 units per floor, 4 floors for a grand total of 40 units. Each level has 2 studio units, which are sort of in that light blue in the center of the plan. Then we have 4 1-bedroom units, which is sort of that light purple color, a little washed out. To the right of the plan are 2 1-bedroom plus den units, and then to the far left of the plan are the 2 2-bedroom units. As has been discussed, we will hit affordability in the unit composition. The units will be fully, percentage of units would be fully handicapped accessible. Each unit does have a balcony as sort of an amenity. In the world of COVID now, we're very focused on bringing natural ventilation into the spaces, into the building. Each unit has its HVAC in unit, so we're not doing a central system. Each unit has in-unit laundry facilities, so we're not doing a central laundry. We're not asking residents to use the local laundromat. In terms of square footage of units, they're pretty good size. They're not huge, but at the same time, they're not micro units either. Studios are coming in at 552 square feet. 1-bedroom units are coming in at 745 square feet. That 1-bedroom plus den is around 1,000 square feet. And then finally, the 2-bedroom units are 1,057 square feet. In terms of the construction methodology, without getting too technical with it, it's going to be a podium style construction, which we've all probably seen out there in the world currently. In basic sense, we come out of the ground with structural steel at that first level parking. We cap that level with concrete, cast in place concrete, and then we build 4 levels of wood. And then the building code, it's a 5A construction wood. In terms of the facade design, we're early on in sort of the facade design, but we definitely want to play off some residential features that people are familiar with and comfortable with. Yeah, if you can actually go back to the rendering, Matt, if you can. We're looking at creating pitched roofs, gable roofs at the top level. The building will have a flat roof to house some of our HVAC condensing units, some of the more nuts and bolts of the building. But greeting the 4 sides of the building will be pitched roofs and gable roofs. Sort of coming down the building, we're going to clad it with clapboard siding. Colors and textures are still to be determined, and we absolutely want to work with your group to zero in on materials. We'll probably pick up some type of a hardy panel or a hardy plank material at sort of featured corners and so on. Windows will be high efficiency double hung windows that we're all familiar with. And we're looking at doing either a stone cladding or brick veneer cladding. Again, it's sort of specific areas around the building. Next slide, maybe. The next slides are really, so this is actually, well, actually go back, man, I'm sorry. So as I was mentioning before, sort of the streetscape idea, like I said, as you come down sort of the main thoroughfare or the main roadway into the property, like I said, you will see 4 levels of living. Okay, next slide. And then as you drive around the back of the buildings, this is where the basement levels become exposed. This rendering is early on. We're going to sort of decrease the amount of openings, but still comply with open parking structure. So you'll probably actually see less of the cars internal to the building at the end of the day. But like I say, it's early on design. We're still developing sort of those finer details. Next slide, and then I'll probably wrap up pretty quickly. These are really just flat on exterior elevations. Like I said before, we're looking at gable roof elements, sort of shed roof elements at some of the balcony structures. The sort of that area that has a flat roof with the number 1 on it, that's sort of our entry tower, elevator, and stair core and lobby. So we want to punctuate that and give it hierarchy to the rest of the building, so that, you know, everyone understands where the entrance of the building is. Next slide. This is one of the side views that you can see. So like I say, on the uphill side, 4 levels of the building are exposed, and on the downhill side, the basement level becomes exposed and access in to the side of the building to your parking space. Next slide. Again, this is the back elevation. We want to keep the colors of the building, the tonality to be sort of earth tones. Like again, just those are going to be developed as we move through the process. Next slide, and I think that's probably it. Again, the final elevation of a typical building. Matt, maybe you want to go. We can maybe talk briefly about the retail building. Just sort of where we've landed currently on this, actually the C-store. Yeah, so just again, this is early on. The actual tenancy is being nailed down, but the idea is again, a residential feel, convenience store with, with either a Dunkin' Donuts or a fast casual drive-through dining. If you go back one last slide, we did do it. There was a rendering here depicting what the C store could potentially look like. And I think with that, that's pretty much, really the highlights that I wanted to speak to. Peter, I'll probably toss it back to you and maybe open it up for questions.
Very good. Thank you. Matt, if you could just go back to that intersection slide again with the Berlin Turnpike. Thank you. I just want to point out that this is obviously a rendering to show you the location and relationship of the buildings. I don't want you to think that there's a forest of trees between the edge of the Berlin Turnpike and this property, because there isn't. We don't know exactly where those trees came from in this rendering, but I don't want somebody to go out and look at the site and ask what happened to all those trees. They're not there and haven't been there. So I don't want anybody to be misled by the artist taking some liberties with that element of the development. And then just maybe go back to the overall site plan, Matt, and that will be the basis of some discussion, I hope. That's a good one. Yep. So as we summarize and then looking for some feedback, not necessarily a great deal because it's a lot to absorb, and I understand that some commissioners haven't been able to see this. All they've done is hear us talk. And let me make this offer for those commissioners who have some computer challenges. We can certainly provide paper copies if there's a way to distribute them through Maureen. If someone would feel more comfortable with that, we can provide 11 by 17 sets of the plans for people to have and be able to touch. I fully agree with whichever commissioner said that doing this not in person is a far more difficult task for everyone, because you lose that opportunity to really get embedded in the development. We are, as indicated, developing less than half of the property on the site. We are leaving areas for passive public and residential recreation, and we're proposing to preserve a large piece of property that is contiguous with both town of Berlin and town of New Britain open space. So that seems to us to be a very good way to make use of this site. At this point, if commissioners have some particular matters that you would like us to address further, we won't do it tonight unless it's an easy question, but we are obviously interested in at least some initial feedback and response to what you've seen. Thank you.
Thank you. I myself, I'm just looking at all of the maps that I have here and then watching to see what's going on visually. But it is, as you said, a lot of information to take in. And obviously we have to wait for our consultants as well. So I would actually have to sit down and look through all the notes again to start asking questions. There wasn't anything that jumped out at me at this time, but I don't know if there's any other concerns or questions that have floated to the top for any other commissioners. Understanding, of course, that we'll probably be seeing you not the 4th of February, but sometime after that, which will hopefully give us a chance to look through our plan of conservation development, to look through your proposal, and to take into account the testimony that we've heard today and weigh it all up. But are there any other commissioners that had any questions or concerns?
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
I just have a couple of questions.
Sure, go right ahead, George.
Well, two things really. One, is there any regulations that talk about what the size of any housing units that are considered to be affordable housing have to be? The reason I ask this is we have another development in town going on for apartments, and they came back several weeks ago or the end of last year and had to increase the size of their 1 and 2 bedroom units because it didn't meet certain CHFA design requirements. Do you have any such restrictions that you have to take into account, and have you vetted that? Is because your 1 bedroom apartments, if they were under a similar design requirement, it had to do with the dining area and things like that, wouldn't be large enough potentially.
That is correct. They did have an issue with it, and they come back for that revision. I understand that. As far as, I believe that developer had made a comment that there was a difficulty that he found that when renting the space or whatever. I'm talking to.
He said that it was a CHFA design requirement for workforce housing. I don't know if we're getting CHFA financing and that became a requirement, or whether there are state requirements that say if you want units to be accepted as affordable housing to meet our 10% goals, they have to be a certain. I don't know the answer to that. I'm asking the question.
Okay, no, and it's a valid question. I think we just had Maureen here. I think I lost her though.
Madam Chairwoman, Joe Badorsky, Berlin Housing Authority. I think I can answer some of that question that Commissioner Millard had.
Regarding the CHFA or?
Yes. That project is specifically a workforce housing project, so it obtains its funding through CHFA and therefore has to comport to the CHFA design standards. To the best of my knowledge, this project doesn't accept any CHFA money. I believe it's private money. But that's to the best of my knowledge.
All right, that might clarify it. And of course,
and I thought it might be related to that. I was just wondering if there were any Connecticut legislated requirements or anything like that. But
no, this is a workforce. This is not a workforce housing project. This is an affordable housing project, and usually that's 80% of the median income for the community. So,
may I respond?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Peter DiAdio, and I'm the developer in the project. And I'd like to respond specifically to the question. As far as we know, we meet those kinds of guidelines. However, what we will have for you when we come back next time is specifically what the CHFA requirement is, and if we meet that. We don't have CHFA funding right now, but I do want to answer the question, and I'm not sure what the sizes are for the workforce housing that you're discussing, and I can't speak to do I exactly meet that because I don't know what it is. But between my architect and my meeting, I know Joe Vocino of CHFA. I'll ask the question, and I'll be able to let you know if we comply or not.
I appreciate that.
We can follow up. This is Mark Joyce. We can follow up. I do know specifically that there are 40B regulations and square footage values that you need to hit for the various bedroom compositions. But like Peter said, this is privately funded development. We'll report back with specifics.
Okay. The other question I had
George,
was,
and the other thing, we'll do diligence on the town side, George, and I will get with Maureen and check on that as well for you.
okay, the only other question I had for tonight was I actually did go through the 800 pages of documents looking to see what you had in there type of deal. Not that I read every page, but I saw that you did a lot of analysis on, the market for apartment rentals and so forth. And I imagine that factored into why you're building 200 units. Did you do any similar analysis with regard to why a hotel, and what does that bring to the community? What does that bring to the parcel? Just curious.
I can speak to that as well. So this process, however, we're coming in front of this commission for the first time as far as a site plan. You may recall that we've been in front of this commission 3 different times to get fill permits, and we were involved in changing the regulation at the time it was changed. And during that process, we met with the Economic Development Coordinator and his commission 4 or 5 times. In addition, with your earlier planner, we did a study going all up and down the Berlin Turnpike to see what was there and what could be or should be there. And the input that we got through that process was that on the frontage of the Berlin Turnpike, what the Economic Development Commission wanted to see was uses like what we suggested: hotels, retail, and this kind of C-store. That's what has survived on the Turnpike. That's what has done well. And there hasn't been a new hotel built since 2008, further down the Berlin Turnpike in Wethersfield. So, of course, COVID came and changed that market. So, hotel is not in vogue right now. Matter of fact, there's a lot of bad hotel loans and a lot of hotels that stopped construction because that travel business has just stopped. And if, as this project, continues in the future, hotels never come back, we'll, be back in for another commercial use because there is no hotel business back. However, I believe all indications is that the hotel business will survive. Choice Brands and some of the other brands that have looked at our site and really liked it, find that there's demand. And especially when you have a neighborhood of 200 apartments, 500 people living there, people visit, and there's demand for rooms, as well as in the business community and other communities. And we have 38,000 cars a day. We're in the center of Connecticut. Hartford's close, New Haven's close, all the colleges are close. So it's very likely that demand will come back, and we'll be ready for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, George. Excellent questions. Anyone else have anything?
Yes, this is Tim Zigmont.
Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. You did environmentals on this property. Did you do any borings on the environmentals?
Yeah, this is Peter Diadio again. We did actually probably 40 different holes, 3 or 4 different studies. Our concern, what we found actually, is there was buried brick. I didn't realize when we had the site for a long time, over 10 years, but there was somebody must have made brick there before, because a lot of the holes found brick. But we did do borings. We were worried about or concerned, how our footings are going to work out. And if you followed Mark's presentation, as far as the architectural goes, and although we've brought in a lot of fill, 70,000 yards, I think you permitted us, and we have most of it in. So we're still a little short around the C-store. But we mostly, except for one building, are building on virgin soil, because the material that has been installed will come out of the backs of those buildings. There will be 2 large retaining walls, structural walls, that hold up that center roadway, that center medium. And the footing grade, 42 inches below then existing grade, will be approximately in most of those buildings on virgin soil. And we have very good results. There's just one little soft spot in the back of building number 5, but it's not very soft. It's only a couple of feet deep.
Okay, the reason I'm asking the question is because that landlocked piece of property in the middle was a house once upon a time, burnt down. But there was a long driveway going into there. That driveway was filled in with asbestos from houses outside houses that had asbestos on them, and they took the asbestos off and threw it in the driveway there. That's where I would like you to take a look there, that asbestos, and where that building was, the cement building was, garage door, whatever. There was a lot of liquid stuff spilt in the ground there.
Well, I just received, I haven't read it yet. It haven't been delivered to me yet, an environmental report. And we certainly can do more testing to find that. But all the material that we've brought on the site has all had a clean environmental report. So far, all we ended up with was one above ground oil tank that we removed. However, we certainly will look at that roadway or that driveway and to determine that it's safe and clean.
Yeah, if you just took a dozer down that driveway, I guarantee you'll find it not too deep.
Okay, Tim.
I know where it is.
Well, Tim, I'm glad to meet you out there, and you can show us, and we'll stake it and we'll take a look.
Yeah, I just, if it's going to be open space or space where people to play, kids to play around, or people to, go in, then you want to make sure that's clean,
Okay, point well taken. Is there anything else that anyone?
Okay, this is Maureen. Can I circle back to one of the questions that Commissioner Millard had with regard to the housing and the affordability? There is an affordability plan, and we did route it, as well as, of course, our consultants having that expertise to look into that. The social services also took a look at it. And while I don't have the documents in front of me, my recollection on Deming Road Workforce is that it was related to the type of funding they're getting in order to do the construction with regard to those unit sizes. I can confirm that. And that's why their sizes changed. But I do think that the regulations for housing units do have parameters with regard to mixes and perhaps the size of units. And I had some discussion with our social services with regard to that. So it certainly will be vetted during the process of analysis. I just wanted to assure the commission of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I know that we're going to be looking at this again, and we just had the opening of the presentation, which is great. Maureen, what are we looking at for the continuation date on this? Or,
well, I would suggest that and particularly given they're asking, the next meeting, of course, is February 4th, which will jump over. The meeting after that would be February 18th. I'd suggest wording such as to at least the meeting of February 18th, but given the fact that it's winter, we have snowstorms, we have COVID rules changing, we have all kinds of things going on, some recognition that might have to get tweaked, let alone the comments that are forthcoming from both consultants and whatnot. That said, to go beyond 35 days, we would be, of the public hearing being opened, we would be dipping into the extension time one way or another, and asking the applicant to recognize that.
We do.
Okay.
Could potentially happen, and just allow for that flexibility so that we don't have to panic with, should there be a snowstorm? That's my biggest fear, is a snowstorm, but
Okay. Well, my biggest fear is hearing from our two consultants that we still have to review their information. Okay. All right. So that being said, is there anyone that would like to, any of the commissioners out there like to make a motion to keep this public hearing open until the proposed 18th of February, with the understanding that we may need an extension from the applicant, and which I believe he's already agreeable to?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, well, Diane just made the motion. Thank you, Diane. Do we have, I hope I got everything. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Sigma.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, further discussion from the rest of the commissioners? Then all those in favor, I'm gonna say aye.
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 Okay. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, commissioners. All right, that is that, and then I believe the other part of the, where's my agenda? I lost it in the mess here.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
so the next is actually the same. So I think, do we need to make a motion on the, keeping them open again, Maureen? Because the next is, just going back to old business.
No.
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 No, you're all
Okay.
set. You kept it
All
open.
right.
You're in the public hearing portion. The only other thing on the agenda, it's listed on the agenda, is adjournment.
Okay, yeah. So anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have a second?
I will second. Oh,
But,
Steve Biella, second.
okay, Steve Bialik is the second, and the time is 10:26 PM. And we'll see everyone on the 4th. Thank you. Be well. Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Yep. Good night.
Bye for now. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night, Harry.